Chapter 901 Resurrection of the Rainbow Queen. The Rainbow Queen no longer had any idea about Lu Chen's resurrection. If Lu Chen could really resurrect himself, he would have resurrected himself long ago. She now suspected that Lu Chen's words on the immortal boat to resurrect her were just a trick to see if she had self-consciousness. At that time, she didn't react at all. I'm afraid that in Lu Chen's eyes, she really didn't have self-consciousness, so he had no interest in her, so he kept throwing the Fiheng immortal boat in the small world inside his body. Forget it, with her own strength, she couldn't resurrect herself, so how could others resurrect her? She continued to accumulate soul power, maybe she would always find a chance to resurrect herself in the future. Lu Chen looked at the motionless Rainbow Queen thoughtfully, and then smiled and said, "Hong Hong, I'm really sorry, I've been too busy in the past few years. I said I would help you create a body, but I forgot." Hearing this, the Rainbow Queen didn't react on the surface, but she snorted in her heart. Busy? She has been with Lu Chen for so many years, and she still doesn't know what kind of person this man is? What he meant by busy was probably lying on top of a woman. Forget it, what was there to be angry about this kind of lustful man? Now she hoped that this guy could practice more, so that she would have a chance to recover her soul power. Every time Lu Chen practiced, he would let the surroundings enter a strange field, and her soul power would also increase. Although she felt that Lu Chen was incapable of resurrecting her, from the fact that Lu Chen could help her recover her soul power, it was not completely without benefits to be with Lu Chen. It was just that this lustful man only knew how to do that kind of thing all day long, so she had no chance to use the field generated by Lu Chen's practice to recover her soul power. Tianhong Empress was thinking about whether to expose her own consciousness and then urge Lu Chen to practice actively. After thinking about it, Tianhong Empress gave up this idea. She really didn't like this man. At this time, Lu Chen walked to the front of the Rainbow Queen, staring at her beautiful face, but there was no change on the face of the Rainbow Queen. She was as cold as usual, and looked like a cold sculpture. Lu Chen thought to himself that it seemed that the spirit of the weapon was a little angry. After all, he had left her in the small world for so many years without paying any attention to her. Lu Chen did not say anything more, and directly took out the branches of the dragon and phoenix tree from the small world. He had already prepared the materials for making a body for the Rainbow Queen. Then Lu Chen sat cross-legged, and then began to practice the King Mu Chang Sheng Gong. As the life force in his body gradually entered the branches of the dragon and phoenix tree, some branches grew out of the dry branches. The next moment, Lu Chen felt that all the strength in his body seemed to be taken away by the branches of the dragon and phoenix tree. Lu Chen reacted instantly and realized that if he wanted to revive a person, he had to consume a lot of life force and spiritual power. As the branches of the dragon and phoenix tree absorbed a large amount of life force, the branches of the dragon and phoenix tree also grew into a human shape. At this time, Lu Chen was sweating all over. This was the first time that Lu Chen used the King Mu Chang Sheng Gong to create a body for a weapon spirit. He was not very skilled. Lu Chen thought to himself that it might not work this way because the life force in his body was decreasing too fast. Before the life force reached the critical point, he didn't know whether this body could be created. Soon Lu Chen thought of something. As the source of all power, the source of power should be able to replace the life force. If the source of power is used to shape the body, does it not need so much life force? Although it was a bit extravagant to do so, he had already paid so much life force. If the body shaping failed, wouldn't he lose a lot? Thinking of this, Lu Chen immediately infused a trace of the source of power into the body shaped for the Tianhong Queen. As this trace of the source of power entered the branches of the dragon and phoenix tree, the dragon and phoenix tree immediately emitted a series of blue light. As the light shone, the original appearance of the dragon and phoenix tree gradually changed. The dry bark outside gradually turned into human skin. Seeing this scene, the expressionless Tianhong Empress was finally moved. She didn't expect that this man could create a human body with a branch. But then again, even if this body is created, it must be usable. If it is just a body, but the soul cannot be integrated with it, then this body is just a dead thing and has no use. But when Tianhong Empress saw the face of the body gradually appear, she couldn't help but feel excited. This body looks exactly like her. Maybe this man can really resurrect her. Tianhong Empress has no other thoughts now. The only thought is to resurrect. Only by resurrecting can she get rid of the shackles of Fiheng Xianzhou, restore her strength, and go to the battlefield outside the domain to take revenge. After an unknown amount of time, Lu Chen finally created the body of the Rainbow Empress. However, creating the body was only the first step. The most difficult part was to merge the soul and the body. If the body and the soul did not match, and the soul could not merge into the body, then it would be useless to create this body. Lu Chen slowly stood up and walked in front of the body of the Rainbow Empress. At this time, the body of the Rainbow Empress stood in place with her eyes closed, like a white porcelain sculpture. Seeing the body in front of him, Lu Chen's heartbeat suddenly began to accelerate. This body was so perfect. Although it was made by his own hands, he couldn't help but feel excited when he saw this body. Seeing Lu Chen staring directly at her own body, Empress Tianhong frowned. Although she had not yet merged with this body looked exactly like hers after all. This lecher was actually staring at her so directly, and judging from the look in his eyes, this guy had thoughts about this body. What a beast! Lu Chen quickly used the spiritual power in his body to adjust his condition and calm down his heart. The most important thing now is to integrate the weapon spirit with this physical body. Thinking of this, Lu Chen's eyes fell on Empress Tianhong. Hong, you enter this body now, and I will help you fuse the soul with the body. Empress Tianhong hesitated for a moment. If she moved at this time, it would prove that she could understand Lu Chen's words and had her own consciousness. Then wouldn't she be exposed? However, Empress Tianhong soon thought that she seemed to be able to understand Lu Chen's simple commands. For example, when Lu Chen asked her to control the ferry boat, she would control the ferry boat. Now she is just following Lu Chen's simple orders, and Lu Chen probably won't think much about it. Thinking of this, the spirit body of Empress Tianhong came out of the control formation of the ferry boat and then entered the physical body. End of chapter. Chapter 902 Shocked Empress Tianhong. As soon as Empress Tianhong entered the body created by Lu Chen for her, she immediately felt that her spirit seemed to have actively merged with this body, and the senses of the body were gradually connected to her consciousness. This. Empress Tianhong was slightly stunned. She didn't expect it to be so easy. Logically speaking, this was not her original body. If her soul wanted to merge with this artificial body, it would take a certain amount of time to adapt. Even if it was a clone made with her own life essence and blood, she would need a certain amount of time to adapt to control the clone, but now this body made of spiritual wood does not need to adapt. After seeing Empress Tianhong's spirit enter the body, Lu Chen once again activated the King Mu Chong Sheng Gong, and then helped Empress Tianhong's soul merge into this body faster. As Lu Chen's life force entered Empress Tianhong's body, Empress Tianhong's senses became more and more obvious. She seemed to feel her hands moving, and spiritual power flowing in her body. She seemed to be able to hear sounds, and a faint light appeared in front of her eyes. Not long after, there seemed to be a thump-thump sound in the mind of the Rainbow Empress, and the sound became more and more obvious. Then, she felt a life force entering her body, and the fusion of her soul and body began to accelerate. After an unknown amount of time, the Rainbow Empress still opened her eyes and stared at the man in front of her. Success! It actually succeeded. This lecher actually resurrected her, and it seemed that he resurrected her very easily. You know, he is not even an emperor now. Even if he was an emperor in his previous life, he does not have the strength of an emperor now, at most he only has the soul power of the emperor level. A person who is not even an emperor can actually resurrect a person so easily. Of course, many cultivators can bring the dead back to life, even a cultivator in the god transformation realm, as long as the soul has not dissipated, it can also be resurrected. However, the difficulty of resurrection increases with the cultivation level of the deceased before his death. The stronger the soul strength, the greater the difficulty of resurrection. She was an emperor before her death, and it would be very difficult even if the emperor resurrected her personally. But this guy in Gigzu realm did it. For a moment, Tianhong Empress couldn't believe that this was true. She had been trapped in Fiheng Xianzhou for many years. She watched her soul gradually dissipate with the passage of time. She thought she would die completely, but she didn't expect that one day she could be resurrected, and it was so easy to be resurrected. Seeing that Tianhong Empress opened her eyes, and her originally lifeless skin also showed a trace of blood color, the blood in Lu Chen's body became agitated again. Tianhong Empress's body is extremely perfect, and the most important thing is that she is now naked, standing in front of Lu Chen. It is impossible for Lu Chen not to be tempted. At this time, Lu Chen asked tentatively with a hoarse voice, "Hong Hong, can you understand me?" The Tianhong Empress didn't want to pay attention to Lu Chen, but she suddenly found that there was a thick causal line between her and Lu Chen. The Tianhong Empress felt helpless. She guessed from the beginning that as long as Lu Chen resurrected her, there would be a deep causal relationship between her and Lu Chen. If she wanted to cut off the causal relationship, she would have to wait until she broke through and became an emperor. And such a thick causal relationship would not be so easy to cut off even if she became an emperor. The Tianhong Empress was a little entangled in her heart. She couldn't stand this man and thought he was a fallen and hopeless person. Even if he was an emperor in his previous life, it would be difficult for him to recover to the level of an emperor in this life. But no matter what, it was this man who resurrected her, so no matter how much she couldn't stand this man, she still had to stay by his side to repay the causal relationship. Thinking of this, the Rainbow Queen said expressionlessly, "Yes." Hearing the Rainbow Queen speak, Lu Chen's mouth corners slightly raised. She stopped pretending now. Now that she has a body, let's see how she can pretend. At this time, Lu Chen looked at the Rainbow Queen again. Seeing Lu Chen's eyes sweeping around her body unscrupulously, and his eyes seemed very hot, the Rainbow Queen instantly saw Lu Chen's thoughts in her heart. The Rainbow Queen then waved her hand, and her body instantly dissipated on the spot. Seeing this scene, Lu Chen was stunned. Would this fairy boat spirit run away immediately after getting the body? Lu Chen quickly released his spiritual power and explored the entire fairy boat. Soon he sensed the location of the Rainbow Queen. At this time, the Rainbow Queen was at the core of the fairy boat. She was practicing cross-legged. It seemed that she was familiar with her body. After all, it took a certain amount of time to get familiar with the body. Lu Chen put aside his evil thoughts. Although the immortal boat spirit had a physical body, it was still the spirit of the immortal boat. He could not possibly attack a spirit of the immortal boat. If this were to be spread out, he would lose all face. At the same time, after the Rainbow Queen came to the core of the immortal boat, she crossed her legs and began to practice. She wanted to recover her strength as soon as possible, and then spur the lustful man above her head to grow up quickly so that she could repay the cause and effect. The cause and effect line between her and Lu Chen was too thick and difficult to cut off. She could only repay it. The best way that the Rainbow Queen could think of was to let the fallen Lu Chen return to the right path and become an emperor again. Helping a fallen emperor to recover his cultivation again, how can this be considered as repaying the cause and effect? As for what the man wanted to do to her, she would definitely not agree. Although for people of her level, sex is not a big deal, but letting a man ride on her is an insult to the emperor. The emperor cannot be insulted, so that guy's desire to have sex with her is a foolish dream, even if this body was created by him. Empress Tianhong didn't think about it anymore. She focused on cultivation. As she gradually entered the state of cultivation, she found that her cultivation was also improving rapidly. Heaven and Man Realm, Creation Realm, Yin and Yang Realm, Transformation Realm. In just less than a day, her cultivation broke through to the Return Realm. Empress Tianhong was a little unbelievable. It takes a long time for the General Emperor to recover his cultivation after rebirth, but she actually cultivated to the Return Realm in just one day. Of course, her cultivation speed has dropped significantly after the Return Realm, but she has never heard of such a speed of recovery in the past. The key is that this body is so suitable for her that her cultivation recovers very quickly. However, Empress Tianhong also found something wrong. Her body seemed to have some problems. When she was practicing, Lu Chen's figure would appear in her mind from time to time, and the scene in the flowers would also appear in her mind. Although this did not affect her practice, it did make her feel a little uncomfortable. Empress Tianhong was a little puzzled. What was going on? End of this chapter. Chapter 903 Entering the Huangshan Star Region. The Rainbow Queen only knew that Lu Chen used a kind of spiritual wood to create his body, but she didn't know what kind of spiritual wood Lu Chen used. The spiritual wood Lu Chen used was the branches of the dragon and phoenix tree. After drinking the dragon and phoenix tea, Lu Chen's wives and concubines would rely on Lu Chen for rebirth, not to mention the body created with the branches of the dragon and phoenix tree. However, the Rainbow Queen was different from Lu Chen's wives and concubines. She was a soul of the Great Emperor. Although she would be affected to a certain extent, her soul power also had a certain resistance to this. The Rainbow Queen frowned slightly, thinking in her heart, could it be that the power of cause and effect was at work? The power of cause and effect is a special power. Although cultivators can cut off the chain of cause and effect, no one can resist the power of cause and effect. Of course, if the chain of cause and effect is cut off, there is no need to bear the cause and effect, and naturally it will not be affected by the power of cause and effect. The Rainbow Queen didn't think much about it. She couldn't cut off the cause and effect. Even if she was affected by the power of cause and effect, there was nothing she could do. At present, she could only let it go. Fortunately, she has strong self-control. After all, she is a soul of the Great Emperor level, and she can take this kind of thing lightly. Isn't it just thinking about men? It's nothing. In the next month, Fiheng Xianzhou continued to fly towards Huangshan Star Region. When it was about to approach Huangshan Star Region, Lu Chen did not plan to use Fiheng Xianzhou again. Fiheng Xianzhou was too luxurious and a little too ostentatious. Fiheng Xianzhou would definitely be noticed by the forces of Huangshan Star Region when it entered Huangshan Star Region. Lu Chen thought to himself, now that Tianxianzou's spirit has a physical body, it can be regarded as life. Does she still need to follow Fiheng Xianzhou into the sub-world? He was not sure whether the spirit with a physical body could be separated from the spirit weapon. Then Lu Chen directly transmitted the voice to Tianhong Empress, Hong Hong, I plan to take Fiheng Xianzhou back to the sub-world. Now that you have a physical body, you should be able to separate from the immortal boat, right? Hearing Lu Chen's words, the next moment, the expressionless Tianhong Empress appeared in front of Lu Chen. When the Rainbow Queen appeared, Lu Chen on the deck was slightly stunned. At this time, the Rainbow Queen was wearing a red dress, exuding a cold and noble temperament, and her charming face made it even more difficult to look away. Lu Chen did not expect that the ferry boat spirit had changed so much after just 1 month. At this time, Mu Qinglan, who was practicing in a palace in the ferry boat, felt a strong breath, and hurriedly ended her retreat and flew out directly. The next moment, she appeared beside Lu Chen. Seeing the woman opposite Lu Chen, Mu Qinglan was slightly stunned. From the appearance, the woman was the original spirit of the Fiheng ferry boat, but her current state was not a spirit body at all. Mu Qinglan was a little puzzled. The spirit of the weapon actually had a physical body? And this spirit of the weapon also had the cultivation of the 8th level of Gigzu realm. The most important thing is that the breath emanating from this spirit of the weapon is very strong. Although the realm is only the Gigzu realm, it can make her, a saint, feel oppressed. In front of the Rainbow Queen, Mu Qinglan recalled the feeling when she first met the Emperor of Heaven. Seeing the Rainbow Queen standing in front of Lu Chen, it seemed that she had no ill will towards Lu Chen. Mu Qinglan breathed a sigh of relief. She thought that an enemy was attacking. But now it seems. Seeing the cold and beautiful jade face of the Rainbow Queen, Mu Qinglan had a sense of foreboding in her heart. The Emperor of Heaven would not want to. Although I don't know why this artifact spirit has a body, it is not surprising if it was done by the Emperor of Heaven. The Emperor of Heaven does have the ability to revive the dead. She has seen the scene of the Emperor of Heaven resurrecting the people of the Skyfire clan. However, why did the Emperor of Heaven create a body for a weapon spirit? Could it be for? This weapon spirit is so beautiful, especially her noble and cold temperament. This is the type that the Emperor of Heaven likes in this life. Thinking of this, Mu Qinglan frowned slightly. The Emperor of Heaven is really getting more and more depraved. He has so many wives and concubines that can't satisfy him, and he even has to create beauties himself. Wait. Mu Qinglan soon realized that there were always women around the Emperor of Heaven before, but in the past month, there was no other woman beside the Emperor of Heaven except herself. Could it be that it was because the Emperor of Heaven had not had sex for too long? So he gave the spirit of the weapon a beautiful body? He wanted this fairy boat spirit to serve him? Thinking of this, Mu Qinglan had a strange feeling in his heart. Would the Emperor of Heaven rather give the fairy boat spirit a body and let the fairy boat spirit serve him than let himself serve him? This made Mu Qinglan feel a little disappointed. Lu Chen continued to say to the Tianhong Empress, "The Fiheng ferry boat is too luxurious. If we enter the Huangshan Star region like this, it will easily attract people's attention. I plan to change to another ferry boat." There is not only one ferry boat in Lu Chen's small world. Since the resources of the Tianhua world, the Tianchen world has built dozens of ferry boats. Lu Chen also brought 2 not-so-good ferry boats with him to avoid being too conspicuous when he leaves the Chaos Star Sea. After hearing Lu Chen's words, the Rainbow Queen did not speak. She slowly raised her hand and waved her sleeves. The next moment, the entire Fiheng immortal boat underwent a huge change. The originally magnificent palace turned into a shabby wooden cabin, and the entire immortal boat also looked shabby, with holes everywhere. Seeing this scene, Lu Chen and Mu Qinglan were slightly stunned. They did not expect that this immortal boat could actually change its appearance. After Lu Chen came to his senses, he said, "This is also possible. Okay, let's get ready to enter the Huangshan Star region." As Lu Chen finished speaking, the Rainbow Empress came to the center of the control array of the immortal boat. The next moment, the Fiheng immortal boat flew towards the distant star region with countless bright spots at a very fast speed. When the Rainbow Empress was controlling the immortal boat, Lu Chen and Mu Qinglan's eyes swept over the Rainbow Empress at the same time. Of course, the two people's thoughts were completely different now. Lu Chen also clearly felt that the aura of the Rainbow Empress had become stronger, which surprised him a little. After the weapon spirit obtained the flesh, it could actually practice like a cultivator. And the speed of practice was so fast? If he was not mistaken, this immortal boat weapon spirit had at least reached the Gigzu realm. It took only 1 month to practice from no practice to the Gigzu realm, and it was on the immortal boat in the void. Although the spiritual energy of the immortal boat was more abundant than the void, it was actually not conducive to practice on the immortal boat. In such a place, he was able to break through to the Gigzu realm. Isn't the speed of his cultivation too fast? Lu Chen then used the system to identify the Rainbow Empress, wanting to see if there was any update to the information of the Rainbow Empress. Name: Rainbow Empress. Identity: Reborn Empress. After she fell in the outer domain, her soul was sealed in the immortal boat by a mysterious existence and became the spirit of the immortal boat. The body created by the host helped her to successfully resurrect. In order to repay the cause and effect, she plans to stay by the host's side. Rating: 100. Favorability: 30. End of this chapter. Chapter 904. It turns out that she was an empress in her previous life. Lu Chen was stunned when he saw the updated information of Empress Tianhong. Empress? The weapon spirit of Fiheng Xianzhou is actually the reborn empress? This. He said that he always felt that she had a particularly noble and condescending temperament about all living beings. This kind of temperament could not be compared to queens like Nangang Yuehua and others. It turns out that she was an empress in her previous life. This reminded Lu Chen of someone. The woman he met in the Flame Dynasty before was also the reincarnation of the empress, and she also had the same temperament. However, compared to the Empress Tianhong in front of him, Lu Chen felt that the Empress aura seemed to be much weaker. But it was precisely because of her noble temperament that Lu Chen became even more agitated. Lu Chen was a little speechless. Although he was very lustful, he had the ability to control himself before. Why did he have no self-control at all in front of this woman? This woman was not just attractive to him because of her beauty, there must be something about her that stimulated him. Lu Chen calmed down his heart and tried not to think too much, even though Empress Tianhong's score reached 100 points, which met the system's conditions. But that was the Empress after all, and her strength recovered too quickly. If I were to force myself, I would be the one who would suffer when Empress Tianhong regained her strength. Moreover, Empress Tianhong's favorability towards him was not high to begin with. If she had a high favorability towards him, he could test it out. Since Empress Tianhong intends to repay karma, she shouldn't leave him for the time being, so there is no need for him to be too anxious and just take his time. Love grows over time. Maybe as they stay together for a long time, Empress Tianhong will also have a good impression of her. But then again, Lu Chen looked at the things he had done in the past. He always felt that Empress Tianhong might not have a good impression of him. After all, he seemed to be a lustful person who only knew how to lie on women all day long. That's all, take it one step at a time. Lu Chen withdrew his gaze from Empress Tianhong. He planned to pretend that he did not know the true identity of Empress Tianhong. It would not be good for him to show off now. Hong, I'm going to practice first, and I'll leave the control of the ferry boat to you. After the words fell, Lu Chen turned back to the palace and entered the immortal boat palace. Only then did Lu Chen realize that although the appearance of the immortal boat had changed a lot, the inside of the Fiheng immortal boat was still brilliant. The interior of Fiheng Xianzhou should be an independent small world, unaffected by external changes. Seeing Lu Chen return to the palace, Mu Qinglan also looked away from Empress Tianhong. Empress Tianhong's cold, arrogant and noble temperament made her feel a lot of pressure, and she also planned to return to the palace to continue practicing. Before arriving at the Huangshan Star territory, Lu Chen practiced in the immortal boat. It was not until he arrived at the first life world in the Huangshan Star territory that Lu Chen came out of the immortal boat palace. The first life world they encountered in the Huangshan Star territory was just a low-level world. Lu Chen stood on the deck of the ferry boat and glanced at the low-level world without entering that world directly. In his heart, Lu Chen was actually thinking about whether to enter that lower world, and then directly control that world, sucking away half of the luck of that world, so as to help his wives and concubines give birth to children in the world. However, he quickly abandoned this idea. If he did this at this time, he would probably be discovered. If it attracted the attention of the Quasi-Emperor, it would be more than worth the loss. This time when we come to the Huangshan Star territory, the most important thing is to create a teleportation array. It is best not to cause unnecessary complications. Thinking of this, Lu Chen did not leave the immortal boat. He still stayed on the immortal boat and continued to the world of Skyfire with the immortal boat. The Huangshan Star Territory covers an area of tens of millions of light-years. In order not to attract attention, Lu Chen specifically asked Empress Tianhong to slow down the speed of the ferry boat, so they spent a lot of time heading to the Skyfire world. However, Lu Chen's approach did not attract the attention of the major forces in the Huangshan Star Territory. The forces that had passed by the Fiheng Immortal Boat instantly reacted when they saw the shabby and slow speed of the Fiheng Immortal Boat. Just lost interest. In this way, the Fiheng Immortal Boat successfully arrived in the Skyfire world. After entering the periphery of the Skyfire world, Lu Chen found a satellite-like world floating next to the Skyfire world. At this time, Mu Qinglan had finished her retreat and came to Lu Chen's side. Lu Chen asked curiously, "Is this world next to me also a living world?" Mu Qinglan replied, "Yes, this is the world of life that you, Emperor of Heaven, moved from other star realms. You said that you want to turn this world into an airport. Immortal boats that want to enter the world of Skyfire must first be in this world. Stop for inspection." Hearing this, Lu Chen was stunned for a moment. Airport? Did he also know about such things as airports in the Emperor of Heaven's life? This sounds like a term on Earth. There is no such thing as an airport in this world. Could it be that his life as Emperor of Heaven was the first life in which he was reborn from Earth to this world? Lu Chen didn't think much about it, and then he said, "Okay, let's enter the port." As it approached, the Fiheng ferry boat slowly moved towards the airport. The inspection process at the airport was relatively simple, which was to check where the ferry boat came from and who was on it. When the Fiheng Immortal Boat entered the docked airport, 2 monks from the Ruins realm came to the front of the ferry boat. They saw the flying ferry boat in tatters and thought it was the ferry boat of some down-and-out force. A cultivator in charge of inspection saw Lu Chen on the deck of the Immortal Boat and said, "To enter the Skyfire world, you need to pay 20,000 top-grade spirit stones first." Hearing this, Lu Chen was stunned for a moment. Although it was not strange for the airport to charge fees, after all, it was also a considerable expense to maintain such a large airport. But it costs 20,000 top-grade spirit stones to enter the port once. Isn't this a bit too exaggerated? Mu Qinglan also frowned at this time. She glanced at the 2 people. The 2 were not members of the Skyfire clan. Lu Chen did not respond to the cultivator's words immediately. He was just curious whether it was really necessary to pay so many top-grade spirit stones. Then Lu Chen's eyes fell on Mu Qinglan's face. Mu Qinglan frowned and looked very serious. Although she rarely went out and spent most of her time in seclusion in the Skyfire world, as a saint, she knew every move of the Skyfire world, and she was not without common sense. The airport did charge fees, but how could it charge so many spirit stones? Mu Qinglan guessed what these people were planning in an instant. So Mu Qinglan said to the 2 cultivators indifferently, "It seems that the docking fee at the airport only cost 1,000 top-grade spirit stones before, right?" Seeing that the people on the Immortal Boat actually knew the docking fee at the airport, the 2 cultivators were stunned for a moment, but they soon reacted. Then a cultivator said arrogantly, "Just pay it if I ask you to. There is so much nonsense there. 1,000 top-grade spirit stones was the price in the past. Now it is 20,000. End of this chapter. Chapter 905 Angry Mu Qinglan. Seeing the monks who collected the docking fee so arrogant, Mu Qinglan's face was extremely gloomy. Although she also knew that this kind of thing was inevitable, it happened in front of her after all, especially in front of the Emperor of Heaven. How would the Emperor of Heaven view the Heavenly Fire world? The Emperor of Heaven brought their Heavenly Fire clan to the Heavenly Fire world, but they did not manage the entire Heavenly Fire world well, and even had to come to the Emperor of Heaven himself to get the spirit stones. Although these people were not from the Heavenly Fire clan, they were also from the Heavenly Fire Dynasty after all. It was impossible for the Heavenly Fire clan to say that all this had nothing to do with them. Seeing that Mu Qinglan didn't say anything, a cultivator said directly, if you don't have spirit stones, go back to where you came from. The Skyfire world is not open to anyone." Hearing the words of the two cultivators, Mu Qinglan's eyes flashed with murderous intent, but she didn't take action. Instead, she asked coldly, "You usually do things?" Seeing that Mu Qinglan not only didn't take out the spirit stones, but spoke to them in a questioning tone, the two cultivators immediately released the pressure of the Gigzu realm. "It's not your turn to question how we do things. If you don't have spirit stones, get out of here quickly and don't waste our time." The two cultivators thought that the opponent's immortal boat was so shabby, so their strength was not very good. They could scare the opponent away with the pressure of the Gigzu realm alone. The most important thing is that this is the Skyfire world, and no one dares to mess around in the Skyfire world. The Skyfire Dynasty is also a big force in the entire Huangshan Star region. There are 2 saints and 3 semi-saints, and more than 100 Gigzu realm strongmen sitting in charge. Although the 2 Gigzu realm masters in front of them were not from the Tianhuo clan, their status in the Tianhuo dynasty was not low either based on their strength. Being questioned by a person from a poor force, the two cultivators were very upset. What status were they in the Tianhuo world? How dare this woman talk to them like this? After hearing what the two said, a hint of murderous intent flashed in Mu Qinglan's eyes, and then Mu Qinglan directly released the pressure of a saint. The next moment, the 2 Gigzu realm cultivators were directly pressed down in the void, as if a piece of land appeared under their feet to prevent them from falling. The pressure of the saint realm was too terrifying, and the two of them immediately spurted out a mouthful of blood. However, even so, they were still not scared. At this time, a cultivator still said with the pressure, "Who are you? You dare to come to the Tianhuo dynasty to act wildly? Do you think you are invincible just because you are a saint?" In the eyes of this cultivator, there are 2 saints and 3 semi-saints in their Tianhuo world. Even if this person is a saint, what does it matter? After sensing the breath of this saint, the Fire Emperor and the ancestors of the Skyfire dynasty will definitely come out, and they will be fine at that time. However, their wishful thinking obviously failed this time. Mu Qinglan sneered, took out a token representing the royal identity from the space ring, and threw it directly in front of the 2 monks. When the 2 monks saw the token in front of them, their faces changed drastically in an instant, becoming extremely pale, without the slightest blood color, and no longer had the arrogance just now. These 2 people are Gigzu realm monks, and they have obviously seen such identity tokens. And there are only 2 people who can take out the token representing the royal identity and have the strength of a saint. One is the Fire Emperor, and the other is the ancestor of the Skyfire dynasty. The Fire Emperor is a man, and the one in front of him is a woman, so her identity is naturally about to be revealed. The 2 of them kowtowed and begged for mercy, saying, "Senior, we were wrong. Senior, spare us. For the sake of our hard work for the Skyfire dynasty, please spare us this time. We promise that we will never do it again." For a moment, the 2 of them were trembling with fear. They couldn't figure it out. Didn't the royal ancestor say that he had been in seclusion? Why did he come here? And as a royal ancestor, he should have a luxurious ferry boat. As a royal ancestor, he actually took such a shabby ferry boat. At this moment, the 2 of them suddenly thought that although they did offend the royal ancestor of the Skyfire dynasty, they were all cultivators of the Gigzu realm after all. There were only more than 100 Gigzu realm cultivators in the Skyfire dynasty, and each one was extremely precious to the Skyfire dynasty. And if the royal ancestor killed people casually, once this matter was known by other people in the Gigzu realm, especially those who were not from the Skyfire clan, they would definitely feel dissatisfied. Over the years, the royal family of the Skyfire dynasty and the people who were not from the Skyfire clan had always been in a state of compromise. It was precisely because of this that more strong men were able to stay in the Skyfire dynasty. Today, the Skyfire dynasty is facing tremendous pressure from the Quasi-Emperor Huangshan, and they dare not kill people at will. If the Skyfire dynasty is in chaos at this time, and the strong men who were not from the Skyfire clan collectively leave the Skyfire dynasty, the entire Skyfire dynasty will soon decline. Thinking of this, the two cultivators were relieved. Moreover, the royal ancestor did not kill them at the first time, proving that she did not have the intention to kill. For a strong man of this level, killing does not need to hesitate at all. If she hesitated, it proved that she did not want to kill. Thinking that Mu Qinglan was still afraid, one of them said, "Senior, we will resign from this job after we go back and are willing to accept the punishment." Mu Qinglan did not speak again, nor did she take action. She seemed to be waiting for something. Seeing that Mu Qinglan remained silent and did not take action against them, the two became more convinced that Mu Qinglan did not dare to take action against them. However, not long after, another terrifying pressure appeared near them. After feeling this pressure, the two of them were stunned. There are only two saints in the Skyfire dynasty. One is the ancestor of the royal family of the Skyfire dynasty, and the other is the Fire Emperor. The ancestor of the royal family was here just now, and now there is pressure from the saints. Then this saint can only be the Fire Emperor. At this moment, the two of them breathed a sigh of relief. Compared with the ancestors of the royal family, the Fire Emperor has always been very tolerant of people who are not from the Skyfire clan. Now that the Fire Emperor is here, even if the ancestors of the royal family want to kill them, the Fire Emperor will definitely take action to protect them. After Mu Zhengqing came to the void, he glanced at the two Gui Ruxing monks who were lying in the void, and frowned slightly. Although he didn't know what happened, but looking at Mu Qinglan's face, he knew it was not something good thing. Mu Zhengqing hurriedly came to Lu Chen's side. Just when he was about to salute Lu Chen, he heard Mu Qinglan say, "Mu Zhengqing, you are really capable of being an emperor. All the people under your command have blackmailed me. The head of the palace is here." Hearing this, Mu Zhengqing was stunned. His eyes fell on Lu Chen. Then he realized what he was doing and glanced at the two monks again. Seeing that the two monks were not from the Tianhuo clan, Mu Zhengqing did not salute Lu Chen in front of them, but sent a message to Lu Chen, "Greetings to His Majesty the Emperor of Heaven." End of chapter. Chapter 906, Building a Saint-level teleportation array in the Skyfire dynasty. Lu Chen sent a message to Mu Zhengqing and said, "Don't worry about me. I'll deal with your matters first." Hearing this, Mu Zhengqing's eyes were fixed on the two Gigzu realm monks. Perhaps feeling the killing intent in Mu Zhengqing's eyes, the two Gigzu realm monks quickly said, "Your Majesty, spare your lives. I didn't know there was a senior on board this ferry boat. The two of us are willing to accept the punishment, and I hope that your Majesty will give us a chance to atone for our sins." Mu Zhengqing snorted coldly. It seemed that he was too kind to them. These people were usually arrogant and domineering, but now they dared to confront the Emperor of Heaven. Although they didn't know that Lu Chen was the Emperor of Heaven, since they had already behaved this way, they shouldn't be alive. Immediately, Mu Zhengqing raised his hand and clapped his big hand, and a huge palm print fell from the sky. After the two noticed something was wrong, they quickly mobilized their spiritual power to try to stop it. But a saint is a saint after all. As the golden palm fell, the bodies of the two men instantly turned into powder. But things didn't end there. In the two secret rooms of the Skyfire dynasty, the clones of the two people opened their eyes instantly. After realizing that the clones were destroyed, they did not hesitate at all, got up and left the secret room, intending to escape from the Skyfire dynasty. Since the Fire Emperor has already developed murderous intentions towards them, it is naturally not possible to just kill one of their clones. As a saint, it is not a big problem for his perception to completely cover a world of advanced cultivation. Finding the bodies of those two monks is just a matter of thought. Soon Mu Zhengqing discovered that the two monks were trying to escape from the world of Skyfire. Without any hesitation, Mu Zhengqing used the spell again and slapped the two monks with a palm from the air. When the people in the heavenly fire world saw those two huge golden palm prints, they were all shocked. In the world of advanced cultivation, the strength of monks is suppressed by the laws of heaven. It is impossible for ordinary monks to make such a big noise in battles. Those who can exert such powerful strength can only be saints. How could a saint take action casually? Who is this being targeted at? Could it be that an enemy has invaded the Skyfire world? When they thought about the relatively stiff relationship between them and the quasi-emperor Huangshan, many people wondered whether the quasi-emperor Huangshan had sent people to the Skyfire world. For a time, the entire Skyfire world fell into panic. However, when people discovered that only the two huge palms appeared and there was no other movement, they gradually breathed a sigh of relief. If it was a battle between saints, there could not be only such a little movement. Perhaps it was because the ancestors of the royal family or the Fire Emperor discovered the enemy, so they took action to eliminate the enemy. After dealing with the two monks, Mu Zhengqing hurriedly came to Lu Chen and said, "Junior pays homage to His Majesty the Emperor of Heaven. This junior's governance is not strict, and his subordinates collided with His Majesty, please punish him." Lu Chen said calmly, "It's okay, that's it." Mu Zhengqing said quickly, "Thank you, Your Majesty." Lu Chen continued, "Have you found a place to set up the formation?" Mu Zhengqing replied, "After we have found it, I think it is most suitable to build the formation in the royal cemetery. The royal cemetery has always been guarded, and ordinary people cannot enter. Only people from the royal family or some members of the Skyfire tribe can enter the royal cemetery. This place is most suitable for placing the teleportation array." Lu Chen said, "Okay, take me there first. The most important thing now is to set up the teleportation array. Even if something happens, you can use the teleportation array to quickly leave the Huangshan Star territory." Mu Zhengqing said, "Yes, Your Majesty, please come with me." Immediately afterwards, Mu Zhengqing took Lu Chen and Mu Qinglan to the royal cemetery. As soon as they entered the royal cemetery, a powerful aura was released. Immediately afterwards, an old man came to Mu Zhengqing and the others. He looked at Mu Zhengqing doubtfully and asked, "Ancestor, Your Majesty, why are you here?" Mu Chengwang was thinking, didn't Mu Qinglan say she left the Skyfire Dynasty and went out to look for opportunities to break through? Why did she come back so soon? Just when Mu Chengwang was confused, his eyes fell on Lu Chen. The moment he saw Lu Chen, he was stunned. "Heaven, His Majesty the Emperor of Heaven." After he came to his senses, Mu Chengwang quickly saluted and said, "Junior, I pay my respects to His Majesty the Emperor of Heaven. Although I feel that Lu Chen's strength is not strong, judging from Lu Chen's appearance, he is most likely the Emperor of Heaven." Mu Chengwang had been in seclusion. After Mu Qinglan left the royal cemetery, he took over the entire royal cemetery. He was not particularly familiar with what was happening outside. He did not expect that he would see the Emperor of Heaven just after he came out of seclusion. Lu Chen said, "No courtesy." Mu Chengwang looked at Lu Chen with great excitement, "Your Majesty! Your Majesty, you are finally back." The Tianhuo clan is extremely grateful to Lu Chen, especially the Tianhuo royal family. They are all Lu Chen's absolute loyalists. In the past, they once thought that the Emperor of Heaven had abandoned their Tianhuo clan. Mu Chengwang never thought that one day he would be able to see the Emperor of Heaven again. Mu Zhengqing said, "Third uncle, Your Majesty is here to build a teleportation array." Mu Chengwang reacted and quickly got out of the way, "Your Majesty, the Emperor of Heaven, please." Immediately afterwards, they came to a bamboo forest. Lu Chen wasted no time and took out the spirit stones from his own little world, and then began to set up the holy teleportation array. Seeing the large amount of spiritual stones consumed by the saint-level teleportation array, Mu Chengwang was a little confused. He did not expect that a teleportation array would consume so many spiritual stones. The Tianhuo dynasty also has a teleportation array, but the spiritual stones consumed to create a teleportation array are far less than the spiritual stones consumed by this teleportation array. As the spiritual stones gradually piled up to form a teleportation gate, Lu Chen breathed a sigh of relief, and then said, "I will test this teleportation array first." As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Chen was about to enter the teleportation array. However, at this moment, Mu Qinglan suddenly said, "Your Majesty! Your Majesty, using the teleportation array for the first time may not be stable. Why don't you let me follow you there?" Speaking of this, Mu Qinglan's mind recalled the previous scene where she and Lu Chen walked hand in hand through the teleportation array. Thinking of this, a faint blush appeared on Mu Qinglan's cold face. Lu Chen did not refuse, "Okay." As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Chen stretched out his hand. Mu Qinglan quickly walked up and took Lu Chen's hand. Seeing this scene, Mu Zhengqing and Mu Chengwang were stunned. Lu Chen turned his head slightly and said to them, "Let's go and come back." After saying that, the two stepped directly into the portal. After they entered the portal, Mu Zhengqing and Mu Chengwang turned to look at each other at the same time. They both saw the other's shock in each other's eyes. They naturally know that Mu Qinglan has always been devoted to the Emperor of Heaven. In order to stand by the Emperor of Heaven, Mu Qinglan practiced hard. Originally, Mu Qinglan's qualifications were not considered good, but it was precisely because of her inner yearning. This allowed her to break through to the saint realm. It's just that the identity of the Emperor of Heaven is so precious, and the Emperor of Heaven didn't take Mu Qinglan with him when he left. I never thought that Mu Qinglan would be able to hold hands with the Emperor of Heaven one day. End of chapter. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. Chapter 907. Are you here to call me to task? Mu Zhengqing was the first to come back to his senses. After coming back to his senses, he smiled and said to Mu Chengwang, "Third uncle, you should have discovered the strength of the Emperor of Heaven." Mu Zhengqing did not continue to speak. Mu Chengwang instantly understood what he meant, and then he said, "So that's it. I don't know what kind of danger the Emperor of Heaven encountered, so he reincarnated. I'm afraid he hasn't fully recovered his memory now." Although the people of the Tianhuo clan were all saved by the Emperor of Heaven, it must be admitted that the Emperor of Heaven is actually a relatively indifferent person, especially when it comes to love between men and women. All his thoughts are on becoming stronger. It is estimated that only when the Emperor of Heaven has not recovered his memory will he let a woman hold his hand. Mu Zhengqing said, "No matter what, the ancestor has realized his wish. Perhaps after this, her cultivation shackles will be broken, and her cultivation speed will become faster and faster. For cultivators, the most important thing is to have a clear mind." The most important reason why Mu Qinglan has been stuck in her current realm is that she has always missed the Emperor of Heaven in her heart. The people of the Tianhuo clan knew her feelings for the Emperor of Heaven. They had always thought that Mu Qinglan was deeply trapped in the love disaster and would probably only be able to stop at the third level of the saint in this life, and it would be difficult to break through. They didn't expect that the Emperor of Heaven would come back one day. The Emperor of Heaven's return was not only a good thing for Mu Qinglan, but also a good thing for the entire Tianhuo clan. After all, Mu Qinglan was the ancestor of the Tianhuo royal family. The stronger she became, the stronger the overall strength of the Tianhuo clan would be. Not long after Lu Chen and Mu Qinglan left, a blue light emanated from the portal. The next moment, Lu Chen and Mu Qinglan came out of the portal hand in hand. When Mu Qinglan came out of the portal, her cold and white jade cheeks were already covered with blush. After walking out of the portal, Lu Chen let go of Mu Qinglan's hand, which made Mu Qinglan feel a little lost. At this time, Lu Chen said, "Okay, the teleportation array has been built. From now on, you can use it to go directly to the Chaos Star Sea. Using the saint-level teleportation array can directly teleport to the Tianchen world, but Lu Chen did not give this teleportation array the authority to teleport to the Tianchen world. This teleportation array can only teleport to the Qunren world. Lu Chen did this for the safety of the Tianchen world. What if the Tianhua world encounters any danger in the future, and an enemy discovers this teleportation array and runs directly to the Tianchen world through this teleportation array? So this trick must be prevented. Even if an enemy discovers this teleportation array in the future and goes directly to the Chaos Star Sea through this teleportation array, it can only reach the Qunren world, and he will have enough time to react at that time. After seeing Lu Chen coming back, Mu Zhengqing came up and asked, "I wonder what arrangements His Majesty the Emperor of Heaven has next. Since the Emperor of Heaven has come, he will naturally not go back so soon." Mu Zhengqing also wants to take this opportunity to entertain the Emperor of Heaven. Of course, he also understands that with the cultivation of the Emperor of Heaven in his previous life, he should have enjoyed everything. However, the Emperor of Heaven in this life was reincarnated not long ago. Before he recovered his memory, he should still have a lot of things that interest him. Lu Chen said lightly, "Let Lanner take me around." Hearing this, Mu Zhengqing and Mu Chengwang were stunned for a moment, but they didn't think much about it. Then Mu Zhengqing said, "Yes, Your Majesty." Then Mu Zhengqing's eyes fell on Mu Qinglan, "Then I'll trouble you, ancestor." Mu Qinglan just said expressionlessly. At this moment, a voice transmission sounded in Mu Zhengqing's mind. "Your Majesty, Li Keqing is looking for you, he seems to be very angry." Hearing this, Mu Zhengqing frowned slightly, and his expression was a little serious. Seeing that Mu Zhengqing's expression was a little strange, Lu Chen asked curiously, "But what happened?" Mu Zhengqing hurriedly said, "It's just a small matter, Junior." Before Mu Zhengqing finished speaking, Lu Chen interrupted and said, "It just so happens that I have nothing to do, so I'll go with you to see it." This. After hesitating for a while, Mu Zhengqing finally agreed, "Okay, please follow me, Emperor." As soon as Mu Zhengqing finished speaking, Lu Chen immediately used the disguise technique to disguise his body and face into other appearances to avoid being recognized by other members of the Tianhuo tribe. His identity is not suitable to be made public now. Then, Mu Zhengqing took Lu Chen and the others to a yard. After they entered the yard, Mu Zhengqing said respectfully, "Emperor, please sit down, I will handle the matter now." After the voice fell, Mu Zhengqing directly transmitted the message to the subordinate who had just transmitted the message. Not long after, a stream of light rushed directly to the yard where Mu Zhengqing and the others were. The next moment, a figure fell in the middle of the yard. The person who came was an old man, wearing a white robe, and looked like an immortal. When the old man landed in the yard, he did not notice Lu Chen, but stared at Mu Zhengqing, "Your Majesty, why did you kill those two Gigzu realm cultivators today?" Li Quan's tone sounded like he was going to ask for an explanation. Those two cultivators were originally brought to the Skyfire world by Li Quan, so they could be considered as people of Li Quan's lineage. In the end, no one knew what happened today, they were killed by Mu Zhengqing. Li Quan did not know the reason, but his people saw Mu Zhengqing's action at the airport. Mu Zhengqing's behavior undoubtedly hurt his face. He brought people to the Skyfire world, but the Skyfire world actually abandoned him. As a semi-saint, Li Quan had no awe of Mu Zhengqing. In his opinion, although there were two saints in the Skyfire world, saints were nothing in a place like the Huangshan Star region. If these semi-saints had not joined the Skyfire world, the overall strength of the Skyfire world would have been greatly reduced, and the Skyfire world would still need semi-saints to handle many things. Saints are the trump cards of a force, and they can't be asked to do everything. It is precisely for this reason that guest officials like Li Quan have no awe of Mu Zhengqing. In fact, Mu Zhengqing did make a lot of concessions in order to win over these semi-saints, and every concession made these semi-saints more aggressive. Seeing that Li Quan actually spoke to him like this, and this was in front of the Emperor of Heaven. Mu Zhenqing's face instantly darkened, and he asked coldly, Li Chuan, are you here to ask me for punishment? Li Chuan said lightly, I am only a half-saint, how dare I ask your majesty, a saint, for punishment? Although Li Chuan said so, his tone was full of disdain for Mu Zhenqing. Li Chuan continued, those two people were brought to the Skyfire world by me. Your majesty killed them without asking the reason. What kind of situation did your majesty put me in? If your majesty does not give me an explanation today, then I will resign from the position of guest official and leave the Skyfire world immediately. End of this chapter. Chapter 908. It seems that being the emperor is not easy for you. After hearing Li Quan's words, Mu Zhenqing's face became even uglier. As a saint and the ruler of the Skyfire dynasty, he was threatened by a half-saint at this moment. If this matter spreads, where is his majesty as an emperor? Li Chuan still looked at Mu Zhenqing with disdain. In his opinion, although Mu Zhenqing's strength is strong, for the sake of the Skyfire dynasty and the Skyfire clan, he will inevitably compromise on everything. The Skyfire dynasty can have the current prosperity, to a certain extent, because of Mu Zhenqing's compromise. The royal family relaxed control and there are not so many rules, so naturally more people were attracted to the Skyfire world. However, the people who were attracted are often unruly people, like Li Chuan. Even if he became a guest of the Skyfire royal family, he did not take the Skyfire royal family and the Emperor Mu Zhenqing seriously. Mu Zhenqing said coldly, these two people took advantage of their positions to accept countless bribes, and even took money from the ancestors of the royal family. If I don't kill them, where is the dignity of the royal family? Why, you are so partial to them, are they giving you all the spiritual stones they looted? Li Chuan frowned, his face turned livid in an instant. Your Majesty, what do you mean? You framed me without any evidence. Could it be that your Majesty thinks that the Skyfire world doesn't need guests and wants to drive me away? Li Chuan did accept the spiritual stones handed over by those cultivators, but in Li Quan's view, there was no problem and it was all reasonable. What's wrong with the people he brought paying tribute to him with spiritual stones? As for how their spiritual stones came from, it has nothing to do with him. Li Chuan never thought that Mu Zhenqing dared to turn against him completely. If he left, there would definitely be other semi-saints who would leave because of his departure. After all, the royal family was so domineering, and those semi-saints would definitely feel that staying in the Skyfire world was not as comfortable as before. Once there is the first one, there will soon be the second and the third. The situation of the Tianhuo dynasty is not very good now. People from the Emperor Huangshan Kuei-Sai Emperor have been sending people to ask the Tianhuo dynasty to be loyal to the Emperor Huangshan Kuei-Sai Emperor, and the Tianhuo dynasty has been holding on. At this critical moment, if Mu Zhenqing still drives away the semi-saints, the strength of the Tianhuo dynasty will further decline. If other worlds come to attack the Tianhuo dynasty at this time, the Tianhuo dynasty may only have the way to destruction. It is precisely because of this that the royal guest has the confidence to be so arrogant in front of the Saint Mu Zhenqing. Mu Zhenqing is indeed worried that if he drives away a guest, it will cause other semi-saints to worry, especially at this time. However, Li Chuan, the semi-saint, is so arrogant to him in front of the Emperor of Heaven. If he is not tougher, how will the Emperor of Heaven see him? Killing Li Chuan is definitely not an option. If Li Chuan is killed, it will further stimulate the conflict between the semi-saints and the royal family, and no one will come to the royal family again in the future. Then Mu Zhenqing released the pressure of the saint realm and said in a cold voice, Li Chuan, do you really think that I dare not drive you out of the Skyfire dynasty? From now on, you are no longer a guest of the Skyfire dynasty. Leave the Skyfire world immediately, otherwise don't blame me for being rude. Feeling the pressure from Mu Zhenqing and hearing what Mu Zhenqing said, Li Chuan was stunned. He always thought that Mu Zhenqing didn't dare to do this, but Mu Zhenqing actually wanted to drive him away today. What's going on? Isn't Mu Zhengqing afraid that other forces will attack the Sky Fire Dynasty at that time? After coming to his senses, Li Chuan said coldly, Fire Emperor, I hope you don't regret your decision today. Li Chuan gritted his teeth, turned around, and turned into a stream of light to leave the Sky Fire world. Seeing this scene, Lu Chen smiled and said, Fire Emperor, it seems that your emperor is not easy. Lu Chen naturally understood what Mu Zhengqing was worried about. He had a general understanding of the situation of the Sky Fire Dynasty. Although the system prompts that there are only 3 semi-saints in the Tianhuo dynasty, in fact, there are more than a dozen semi-saints in the Tianhuo dynasty. However, apart from the 3 semi-saints mentioned by the system, the remaining semi-saints are not from the Tianhuo clan. Those semi-saints were recruited by Mu Zhengqing. Once they knew that Mu Zhengqing drove away a semi-saint, they would definitely wonder if this kind of thing would happen to them one day. At that time, more semi-saints would probably leave. Although semi-saints are not as noble as saints, as long as they want, they can have a good life in any medium-sized world. Even if they do not rely on the Tianhuo dynasty, there are still many forces to recruit them. If you don't stay in your own place, you will stay in your own place, so they will not hang themselves on a tree in the Tianhuo dynasty. This is why Mu Zhengqing, a saint, dare not attack a semi-saint casually. Now is a troubled time, and the Emperor of Heaven has not recovered his strength and memory. At this time, Mu Zhengqing can't attack a semi-saint casually. After Mu Zhengqing came to his senses, he quickly said to Lu Chen, I'm sorry to make you laugh, Emperor. Lu Chen said calmly, my strength has not recovered yet, so I really need to be patient. When my strength recovers one day, you won't need to be patient. Hearing this, Mu Zhengqing was very excited. It seemed that the emperor was going to continue to help their Tianhuo clan. If there was the help of the emperor, the Tianhuo clan would one day be able to reproduce the glory of their ancestors. Lu Chen then said, okay, go and take care of your own business. I and Lanner will go out for a walk. After the voice fell, Lu Chen and Mu Qinglan disappeared on the spot. Farewell, Emperor Tian. After Lu Chen left, Mu Zhengqing sighed. He was actually a little worried that if the Emperor Tian saw his weak side, he would think he was spineless and have some negative thoughts about the Tianhuo clan. This put Mu Zhengqing under a lot of pressure, but after listening to what the Emperor Tian said just now, the Emperor Tian should understand his difficulties. In the next half-month, the news that a semi-saint was driven away by the royal family spread throughout the Tianhuo world, and people were very surprised by this. The Fire Emperor has always been a person who likes to compromise. How could he suddenly become so tough? Moreover, the situation of the Tianhuo dynasty is not optimistic now. More and more forces have sent spies to inquire about the situation in the Tianhuo world. It is obvious that the people of the Emperor Huangshan Quasi-Emperor want to attack the Tianhuo dynasty. At this time, if a semi-saint is driven away, the Fire Emperor will not be afraid of causing dissatisfaction among other semi-saints. By then, all those semi-saints will run away, and the strength of the Tianhuo dynasty will inevitably decline significantly. It was similar to what Mu Zhengqing thought at the beginning. After the news that the semi-saints were driven away by the royal family spread, 2 more semi-saints took the initiative to leave the Tianhuo world. Although the Tianhuo world treated them very well, other forces could also afford such treatment. Fortunately, Mu Zhengqing did not take action against Li Chuan. After the remaining semi-saints came to the imperial capital to ask Mu Zhengqing why Mu Zhengqing drove Li Chuan away, they all felt that Li Chuan had indeed gone too far. Li Quan's men received all the money from the royal ancestor. It was no wonder that Mu Zhengqing drove Li Chuan away because he was so short-sighted. The strong men of the Tianhuo dynasty basically knew what the royal ancestor's attitude was towards outsiders. Now that the royal ancestor was stopped outside his home, he must be very angry, so he put pressure on Mu Zhengqing to drive Li Chuan away. End of this chapter. Chapter 909 Pretending to be loyal to the Emperor Huangshan. Time passed day by day. After a month, the issue of Mu Zhengqing driving away the semi-saint gradually subsided, and people's arguments returned to whether to take the initiative to pledge allegiance to the Kuei-Sai Emperor of Huangshan. The people of the Tianhuo clan were naturally unwilling to surrender to the Kuei-Sai Emperor of Huangshan. The only person they were loyal to was the Emperor of Heaven. After Lu Chen had been wandering around the Tianhuo world for a month, he also discovered the influence of his previous life in the Tianhuo world, especially the people of the Tianhuo clan. Even the children who learned to speak knew the Emperor of Heaven. In addition, the people of the Tianhuo clan also set up a statue of the Emperor of Heaven, and every household burned incense to the Emperor of Heaven. Of course, in addition to the people of the Tianhuo clan, many other people in the Tianhuo dynasty also believed in the Emperor of Heaven, but compared with the people of the Tianhuo clan, those people were not so sincere. After all, those people had no direct intersection with the Emperor of Heaven, and the reason why they believed in the Emperor of Heaven was also influenced by the Tianhuo clan. The Emperor of Heaven is not like a belief for the entire Tianhuo dynasty, but more like a culture. After touring the entire Skyfire world, Lu Chen felt that there was nothing to do, so he returned to the palace and spent some time there. Skyfire Dynasty capital, inside the palace. Lu Chen sat cross-legged on the couch, practicing, and the Rainbow Queen stood by and watched. Rainbow Queen thought that Lu Chen would trigger another strange phenomenon when practicing, and she used that strange phenomenon to continue to restore her soul power, but this time Lu Chen practiced without any strange phenomenon. This puzzled the Rainbow Queen. In the past, Lu Chen would have strange phenomena when practicing in the Fiheng Xianzhou, so why didn't it appear this time? She thought that Lu Chen would have such strange phenomena as long as he took the initiative to practice. Could it be that Lu Chen would only have such strange phenomena when practicing in the Fiheng Xianzhou? Rainbow Queen didn't think about it anymore. If there is no strange phenomenon, there is no strange phenomenon. She has been resurrected now and can practice independently. Even without Lu Chen, she can repair her soul, but she just lacks a shortcut. At this moment, Lu Chen suddenly thought of something and opened his eyes. He thought to himself that if he absorbed half of the luck of the Skyfire world, he would be able to help another wife and concubine give birth to a child. When he entered the Skyfire world, Lu Chen felt that the heavenly Dao of the Skyfire world was particularly close to him. If he asked it for half of its luck, it should be no problem. But Lu Chen soon realized that if he absorbed half of the luck of the Skyfire world at this critical moment, it would not be a good thing for the Skyfire world. The Skyfire world itself was in a precarious situation. If its luck declined, the Skyfire world would encounter more troubles. Thinking of this, Lu Chen still gave up the idea in his heart. In this case, there was no need for him to stay in the Skyfire world any longer. It was time to go back. So Lu Chen sent a message to Mu Qinglan, "Lanner, I'm going back. Tell the Fire Emperor and the others." After hearing Lu Chen's message, Mu Qinglan immediately told Mu Zhengqing the news. Not long after, Mu Zhengqing, Mu Chengwang and other royal elders appeared in the yard. In the past few days, Mu Zhengqing has told some important members of the royal family about the reincarnation of the Emperor of Heaven. After all, the royal family has always been dissatisfied with Mu Zhengqing's introduction of outsiders into the heavenly fire world. They thought that Mu Zhengqing was planning to join the Kuei-Sai Emperor of Huangshan. The stability of the royal family is crucial. As Mu Zhengqing thought, when these royal family members heard that the Emperor of Heaven was still alive, they never opposed Mu Zhengqing again. After Lu Chen felt the people in the yard, he said lightly, "Come in." As soon as the voice fell, the palace door opened, and then Mu Zhengqing led a group of royal family members into the hall. After entering the hall, everyone said in unison, "Greetings to the Emperor of Heaven." Lu Chen nodded, "No need to be polite." Lu Chen glanced at everyone, and then said, "I plan to leave the heavenly fire world. If you encounter any problems in the future, you can directly send people to the Chaos Star Sea. Hearing this, Mu Zhengqing sighed slightly in his heart. The Emperor of Heaven had only been here for more than a month and was about to leave. He wanted the Emperor of Heaven to stay for a while, so that it would be more conducive to him to stabilize those royal family members. However, Mu Zhengqing was not too depressed. With the teleportation array in the royal cemetery, it would be very easy to go to the Chaos Star Sea in the future, and the Emperor of Heaven could also come to the heavenly fire world through the teleportation array at any time. With the teleportation array, the number of times the Emperor of Heaven came to the heavenly fire world would definitely increase. At this point, Lu Chen thought of something, then looked at Mu Zhengqing and said, "The situation in the Skyfire world is not very good. You can send people to release some ideas of loyalty to the vassal forces of the Emperor of the Mountain." Hearing this, Mu Zhengqing was stunned. He actually thought about pretending to be loyal to the Emperor of the Mountain, but the people of the Skyfire clan would definitely not agree. The first to disagree were naturally the clan members. If he really did this, the Skyfire dynasty would probably only be greeted by division, but now it is different. Now the Emperor of Heaven has spoken in person. Even if he does this, the clan members present can no longer say anything. The Emperor of Heaven has just reincarnated, and he really needs to lie dormant. Only when the Emperor of Heaven recovers his strength can they have the capital to compete with the Emperor of the Mountain. At this point, Lu Chen got up from the soft couch. "Okay, that's it, I'm going back to the Chaos Star Sea first." Mu Zhengqing quickly took the lead in saluting and said, "Farewell to the Emperor of Heaven." Then, Lu Chen and Empress Tianhong disappeared from the spot and came to the teleportation array of the royal cemetery, where Empress Tianhong was already waiting. After Lu Chen left, everyone in the royal family couldn't help but sigh. It would be great if the Skyfire dynasty was stronger. If we were stronger, we would be able to help His Majesty the Emperor of Heaven, and we wouldn't be so cowardly and pretend to be loyal to the Quasi-Emperor of Huangshan. If this gets out, it will definitely cause dissatisfaction among the clan members. Alas, now we can only hope that His Majesty the Emperor of Heaven can recover his cultivation as soon as possible. Hearing the voices in the hall, Mu Zhengqing said, "You don't have to worry too much. Even if the Quasi-Emperor of Huangshan gets the opportunity to break through to the Great Emperor, it will be difficult to become an emperor without a few thousand years. With the speed at which the Emperor of Heaven recovers his cultivation, His Majesty may recover his cultivation before the Quasi-Emperor of Huangshan becomes an emperor. We just need to wait for the Emperor of Heaven to recover his cultivation." Mu Zhengqing had already thought that for the entire Huangshan Star region, being loyal to the Quasi-Emperor of Huangshan and becoming a vassal of the Quasi-Emperor of Huangshan was already a general trend. As long as the Skyfire dynasty releases some news about loyalty to the Quasi-Emperor Huangshan, the forces in the Huangshan Star region will think that the Skyfire dynasty can no longer bear the pressure and choose to be loyal to the Quasi-Emperor Huangshan. After all, when the Quasi-Emperor Huangshan breaks through, he will be the only emperor in the Huangshan Star region, and no one or force in the Huangshan Star region dares to disobey him. In this way, the vassal forces of the Quasi-Emperor Huangshan will not do anything to the Skyfire world. Of course, this may be uncomfortable for the people of the Skyfire clan, but as long as the court does not directly issue an order to be loyal to the Quasi-Emperor Huangshan, but just maintains a vague state, it will not be a big problem to barely stabilize the people of the Skyfire clan, and then wait for the emperor to recover. End of this chapter. Chapter 910. I have to say, you guys in the Skyfire dynasty are really lucky. After Lu Chen left the Skyfire world, Mu Zhengqing immediately secretly sent someone with a large number of gifts to visit the dragon-controlling sect, a subordinate force of the Emperor Huangshan Quasi-Emperor. Although the Emperor Huangshan Quasi-Emperor has many vassal forces, he has not yet established a dynasty, and his vassal forces are not under unified management. It seems that for the Emperor Huangshan Quasi-Emperor, as long as the forces of the Emperor Huangshan Star region can submit to him, can offer him cultivation resources, and be driven by him, they can do whatever they want, and he is too lazy to manage. Dragon controlling sect. In the hall, there are several dragons locked by chains. These dragons look hideous and terrifying, but at this moment they are lying on the ground very obediently, just like pets in captivity. Above the hall, there is a very huge throne, on which there are several huge golden dragon sculptures. Although the throne is very magnificent and domineering, the person sitting on the throne does look like a refined and easygoing old man. The dragon in the hall and the refined old man on the throne, this scene is not harmonious at all. There was an old man sitting on one side of the hall, and the smile on his face looked a bit flattering. The old man on the throne smiled and said, "It's really strange that the Skyfire dynasty would send someone. I thought the Skyfire dynasty's faith was very firm and they would always wait for the so-called Heavenly Emperor to return." Wu Peng, the leader of the Yulong sect, knew very well about the Skyfire dynasty. Of course, Wu Peng did not think that the person the Skyfire dynasty believed in was really the Heavenly Emperor. Even if he was the real Heavenly Emperor, that was a thing of the past. The Skyfire dynasty was just a small force, how could it be blessed by a figure of the level of the Heavenly Emperor? Wu Peng believed that the Skyfire dynasty had always been unwilling to be loyal to the Emperor Huangshan, mainly because they did not want to pay tribute to the Emperor Huangshan and did not want to work for the Emperor Huangshan. He had sent people to find Mu Zhengqing a long time ago, asking Mu Zhengqing to see the situation clearly, but Mu Zhengqing always used the reason that the Skyfire dynasty believed in the Heavenly Emperor to evade his people. Wu Peng continued, "Why isn't the Skyfire dynasty afraid of punishment from your emperor now?" Hearing this, Mu Jingshan in the hall said with a smile, "Master Wu, you are joking. It is our honor to be loyal to the Quasi-Emperor Huangshan. It is also the general trend. We can still see the situation clearly." Wu Peng laughed, and then said, "In my opinion, you are afraid that you will be liquidated after the Quasi-Emperor Huangshan breaks through." Speaking of this, Wu Peng's mouth corners slightly raised. "In fact, you Skyfire dynasty don't need to worry about the Quasi-Emperor Huangshan liquidating you. It must be said that the luck of your Skyfire dynasty is the anger is really good. If other forces were to disobey the Emperor Quasi-Emperor, he would have had them destroyed long ago." Mu Jingshan asked in confusion, "May I ask what Master Wu meant by this?" Wu Peng said directly, "The Quasi-Emperor Huangshan has ordered that no force is allowed to attack the Skyfire dynasty before he finishes his retreat. If there is no order from the Quasi-Emperor Huangshan, do you think that the Skyfire dynasty, a force that believes in other emperors, can still exist today? The Huangshan Star region can basically be regarded as the territory of the Quasi-Emperor Huangshan. As a result, there are people who believe in other emperors in the territory of the Quasi-Emperor Huangshan. If it were an ordinary Quasi-Emperor, he would definitely not be able to bear it long ago. Even if the Quasi-Emperor Huangshan didn't care, the subordinate forces of the Quasi-Emperor Huangshan would eliminate those ignorant forces before the Quasi-Emperor Huangshan opened his mouth. This is a good opportunity to show loyalty, and naturally there are forces willing to do it. What's more, there are only 2 saints in the Skyfire dynasty, and their strength is not particularly strong. The reason why no forces have been hostile to the Skyfire dynasty is mainly because the Quasi-Emperor Huangshan issued an order to the subordinate forces before he went into seclusion, telling them not to touch the Skyfire dynasty." Hearing Wu Peng's words, Mu Jingshan was stunned again. It was the first time he heard of this. For a moment, he felt extremely confused. Why didn't the Quasi-Emperor Huangshan let his subordinate forces take action against the Skyfire dynasty? Could it be that there is an existence in the Skyfire dynasty that the Quasi-Emperor Huangshan is afraid of? Could it be that the Quasi-Emperor Huangshan knew the real existence of the Emperor of Heaven, so he didn't dare to take action against the Skyfire dynasty? Mu Jingshan then asked directly, "May I ask you why the Quasi-Emperor Huangshan issued such an order?" Wu Peng smiled and said, "Because the Quasi-Emperor Huangshan has taken a fancy to the ancestor of your Tianhua royal family, he plans to marry your ancestor after he breaks through and becomes the great emperor. That's why I said that your Tianhuo dynasty is so lucky. Other forces may not get the attention of the Quasi Emperor Huangshan even if they fight to the death, but your Tianhuo dynasty can get the blessing of the Quasi Emperor Huangshan because of one person. Mu Jingshan was a little confused. He didn't expect that the Quasi Emperor Huangshan actually took a fancy to Mu Qinglan, but their ancestor and the Quasi Emperor Huangshan didn't seem to have any intersection. Their ancestors basically spent most of their time in seclusion in the royal cemetery to practice, let alone leaving the Tianhuo world. Even the imperial capital didn't leave many times. Only Mu Qinglan knew that after the reincarnation of the Emperor of Heaven, Mu Qinglan left the Tianhuo world for a long time. Wu Peng then continued, "It's just right. You can tell your ancestor about this news when you go back, so that she can prepare early." Wu Peng believed that with the Tianhuo dynasty and the Tianhuo clan as hostages, the ancestors of the Tianhuo royal family would be unlikely to escape. After Mu Jingshan recovered, he smiled flatteringly again, "Thank you, Master Wu, for telling me this. If my ancestor really married the Quasi Emperor Huangshan, our Tianhuo dynasty would definitely reward her handsomely." Wu Peng said with a smile, Okay, let's leave it at that today." Mu Jingshan immediately stood up and bowed, saying, "Then I will take my leave." "Okay." Then Mu Jingshan turned around and left the hall. Looking at Mu Jingshan's back, Wu Peng said to himself, "I don't know why the Emperor Huangshan Quasi Emperor likes that woman. Could it be because she is a female saint? In the entire Huangshan star region, there is only Mu Qinglan, a female saint. If the Emperor Huangshan Quasi Emperor has high requirements for his Taoist partner, it may be because of her cultivation." After leaving the Yulong sect, Mu Jingshan hurried back to the Skyfire world and told Mu Zhengqing the news. When Mu Zhengqing heard that the Emperor Huangshan Quasi Emperor wanted to marry their ancestor, he was stunned. He said that why the major forces in the Huangshan star region have been eager to make a move on the Skyfire world, but have not done so, it turns out that it is because of this reason. But Mu Zhengqing was just as curious as Mu Jingshan about when Mu Qinglan had met the Quasi Emperor of Huangshan. They probably had never met before, right? Could it be that their ancestor was the only female saint in the Huangshan star region, and the Quasi Emperor of Huangshan had no choice, so he planned to marry her? In any case, this news must be told to the Emperor of Heaven. Soon, Mu Zhengqing had someone deliver this news to Lu Chen. End of this chapter. Take a day off. My head hurts, please take a day off. End of this chapter. Chapter 911. I suddenly remembered that there is a technique that is very suitable for you. Tianchen World. During the Great Xia Dynasty, the imperial study room of Yanqing Palace. Lu Chen sat at his desk and looked through the government affairs records of the Xia Dynasty in recent years. Now that the entire Xia Dynasty is managed by the Prince Lu Chongfeng, Lu Chen is completely a hands-off boss, and most of the new officials are promoted by Lu Chongfeng. Unlike those emperors of mortal dynasties, Lu Chen is not afraid at all that his son will replace him. He has almost completely let go. At most, he only gives some guidance on modern management. After all, the Tianchen world has entered the era of industrialization, and the old management methods in the past are no longer effective. As the only modern person who has traveled across the earth, Lu Chen is the only one who can give some suggestions suitable for industrial development. Of course, although he has almost completely let go, he will still come to the imperial study in person every once in a while to look through Lu Changfeng's government affairs records. What orders Lu Changfeng issued, what officials were appointed or removed, and the court's government affairs handling records will all be recorded in detail. At this moment, Bai Qingqing's cold voice came from the door, "Your Majesty, someone from Skyfire World is here." After hearing this, Lu Chen came back to his senses. He was a little curious. He had just left the Skyfire World not long ago. Why did the Skyfire world send someone again so soon? Could it be that something big happened in the Skyfire world after he left? Lu Chen then put down the record book in his hand and said, "Come in." The next moment, a descendant of the Heavenly Fire royal family entered the hall. "Meet the Emperor of Heaven." "Excuse me, what happened in the Skyfire world?" The man quickly handed the envelope in his hand to Lu Chen. "Your Majesty, this is the letter sent by the Fire Emperor to the Junior. The Fire Emperor said that Your Majesty will understand it after reading it." Lu Chen grabbed it casually, and the letter in the man's hand flew into Lu Chen's hand. Lu Chen tore open the letter and took a look. Lu Chen frowned when he saw the content of the letter. An old man actually misses his woman. Although Lu Chen has never done anything like that to Mu Qinglin in the past few years, he has already regarded Mu Qinglin as his own woman. He has never touched Mu Qinglin, but he just doesn't want to use his identity to unspoken rules for Mu Qinglin. Just Qinglin. After thinking for a while, Lu Chen directly opened the space-time mirror and contacted Mu Zhengqing. Seeing Lu Chen's projection, Mu Zhengqing quickly saluted, "Meet the Emperor of Heaven." Lu Chen said calmly, "I have received your letter. Next, you just need to continue to stabilize the power of the Quasi Emperor of Huangshan. There is no need to do anything else." Mu Zhengqing said, "Junior understands. Now it is a race between Lu Chen and the Quasi-Emperor Huangshan. As long as the Quasi-Emperor Huangshan has not made a breakthrough, and as long as Lu Chen becomes the Great Emperor before the Quasi-Emperor Huangshan, then the Quasi-Emperor Huangshan is not a threat to Lu Chen." After Lu Chen told Mu Zhengqing a few more words, he turned off the space-time mirror. He stood up from his chair and looked out the window of the Imperial Study Room, seeming to be thinking about something. The most important thing now is to become stronger quickly. He has not yet broken through to the Saint Realm, let alone become an enemy of a Quasi-Emperor. Although it takes thousands of years to break through and become an emperor, no one can say whether the Quasi-Emperor Huangshan will suddenly leave seclusion due to some reasons. If the Quasi-Emperor Huangshan leaves seclusion midway and wants to marry Mu Qinglin in advance, that will be troublesome. Thinking of this, Lu Chen's figure flashed, and the next moment, he appeared in Mu Qinglin's palace. After Mu Qinglin, who was practicing, noticed Lu Chen's aura, she was stunned for a moment and immediately opened her eyes. Then she stood up from the soft couch and saluted Lu Chen. "I've met the Emperor of Heaven. I wonder what the Emperor of Heaven wants from me." Lu Chen directly handed the letter sent by Mu Zhengqing to Mu Qinglin. Mu Qinglin took the letter and glanced at it curiously. Seeing the content of the letter, Mu Qinglin frowned slightly. She did not expect that the Quasi-Emperor of Huangshan had always been thinking about her. Lu Chen asked curiously, "Do you know the Quasi-Emperor Huangshan?" Lu Chen was a little confused. If the Quasi-Emperor of Huangshan didn't know Mu Qinglin, then why would he want to marry Mu Qinglin? Mu Qinglin replied, "I have only met the Quasi-Emperor Huangshan once." For cultivators, staying in one place to practice is also a kind of torture, so Mu Qinglin once quietly left the Skyfire world to relax in other worlds. By chance, she met the Quasi-Emperor Huangshan who was still in the Saint Realm, but nothing happened between the two of them. The Quasi-Emperor Huangshan never actively pursued her. Mu Qinglin really didn't understand how the Quasi-Emperor Huangshan could think of making a breakthrough. "Marry yourself after becoming the emperor." Lu Chen said with a smile, "So, that guy fell in love with you at first sight. He felt that he was not worthy of you, so he planned to marry you after becoming the emperor." Mu Qinglin said quickly, "Your Majesty, I will never marry him." Mu Qinglin was a little panicked in her heart. In the face of the heat of liking, what a woman fears most is that the person she likes knows that someone is pestering her and that others also like her. Lu Chen also saw Mu Qinglin's inner panic. "You are my protector, it is indeed impossible to marry him. It seems that I have to seize the time to practice, otherwise I won't even be able to protect my protector." Hearing Lu Chen's words, Mu Qinglan suddenly felt warm in her heart, and a blush appeared on her face. Didn't the Emperor of Heaven mean to practice for herself? In the past, she always wanted to cheer up the Emperor of Heaven and stop focusing on women, but her methods were of no use at all. Unexpectedly, an unexpected combination of circumstances actually cheered up the Emperor of Heaven. And the reason that cheered up the Emperor was actually herself. Thinking about it this way, she also has a place in the heart of the Emperor of Heaven. At this time, Lu Chen's eyes swept back and forth on Mu Qinglan's cold and beautiful face, and then slowly glanced at her graceful figure. Mu Qinglan wore a long green gauze dress that tightly wrapped her upper body, perfectly showing off her exquisite convex and concave curves. Lu Chen thought to himself that it was about time. Seeing Lu Chen staring straight at her body, Mu Qinglan became even more panicked. She couldn't help but think, could the Emperor of Heaven see something? This is troublesome. What if the Emperor of Heaven thinks that he has some thoughts about him and lets him return to the world of Skyfire? At this time, Lu Chen said, Lanner, I suddenly remembered that a technique is very suitable for you and can help you quickly improve your cultivation. I wonder if you want to practice it. Hearing this, Mu Qinglan asked curiously, I wonder what technique your Majesty is talking about. The technique Mu Qinglan is practicing now is what Lu Chen gave her. She simply thought that Lu Chen wanted to give her a new technique and did not think about other aspects. Lu Chen didn't hesitate at all and directly passed the contents of Xian Nu Kong to Mu Qinglan. At this moment, a ball of white light flew from Lu Chen's forehead into Mu Qinglan's brain, and then Mu Qinglan sensed the content of Suan Kung Fu. When she found out that practicing Suan Gong requires a man and a woman, she was stunned on the spot. End of chapter. Chapter 912, Your Majesty, please help me practice. Mu Qinglan has lived for tens of thousands of years and is no longer a simple girl. When Lu Chen passed the content of Suan Gong to her, she guessed Lu Chen's thoughts in her heart. When she thought that Lu Chen actually wanted to be with her, more and more red clouds appeared on Mu Qinglan's originally cold face. Under the background of Tao Yun, Mu Qinglan, the shy female saint, became more charming, which also made Lu Chen more restless. However, Lu Chen did not take action directly, but stood there waiting for Mu Qinglan's answer. Mu Qinglan's mind was blank at this time. After the Emperor of Heaven saved the Tianhuo clan, she fell in love with the Emperor of Heaven, but the Emperor of Heaven was not interested in women at that time, so she could only keep that love in her heart. When she saw the Emperor of Heaven again and found that the Emperor of Heaven had been reincarnated and had not yet recovered his memory, she had a little idea at that time, wanting to become the Emperor of Heaven's woman before the Emperor of Heaven recovered his memory. However, she had not taken the initiative in the past few years. Even though the current Emperor of Heaven had fallen and his mind was on women, as the Emperor of Heaven gradually recovered his cultivation, his memories of his previous life would soon recover. If the Emperor of Heaven found out that she had seduced him before he recovered his memories of his previous life and ruined his Tao heart, he would probably hate her. That's why she had always stayed in the thinking stage and had not taken the initiative to devote herself. But the Emperor of Heaven actually took the initiative to give her this kind of skills today. Isn't that another hint to her to make her his woman? For a moment, Mu Qinglan was a little overwhelmed. The Emperor of Heaven had become more and more corrupt. If the number of women around him continued to increase, he would probably have even less energy to cultivate. And what she was most worried about was that after the Emperor of Heaven recovered his memory, he would blame her for not guiding him on the right path of cultivation. But then again, he already had so many women, and one more was actually nothing. Seeing Mu Qinglan standing there in a daze, Lu Chen stared into her eyes and asked affectionately, "What's wrong, Lanner? If you don't want to practice this technique, then don't practice it." Hearing Lu Chen's voice, Mu Qinglan came back to her senses. She looked at Lu Chen with a cold face, and then said, "Your Majesty, please help me practice." She was originally the maid of the Emperor of Heaven. If the Emperor of Heaven wanted that kind of thing, she should naturally agree. Now that the Emperor of Heaven has hinted at her, she can't pretend to know nothing. And becoming the woman of the Emperor of Heaven has always been her wish. No matter whether the Emperor of Heaven will still have feelings for her after recovering his memory, she only needs to grasp the present, and there is no need to worry too much about things that have not happened yet. Seeing that Mu Qinglan agreed, Lu Chen's mouth corners slightly raised, and then asked, "Are you sure you want me to help you practice?" Mu Qinglan blushed and said, "I am the maid of His Majesty. It is impossible to find anyone else except His Majesty." Lu Chen said, "Okay, then let's start now." As soon as the voice fell, Lu Chen directly stretched out his hand and pulled Mu Qinglan's delicate body into his arms, letting the two of them press their chests against each other. Being suddenly pulled into Lu Chen's arms, Mu Qinglan's whole heart trembled, and she felt her body getting hot instantly. This was the first time she had such close contact with a man. She has lived for tens of thousands of years and has some understanding of the relationship between men and women. In the past, she always thought that it was just a matter of livestock, and those men and women who did that kind of thing were so excited, but when it was really her turn, she found that her body would also involuntarily undergo some subtle changes. Feeling the soft jade and warm fragrance in his arms, Lu Chen instantly felt it. Mu Qinglan suddenly noticed Lu Chen's abnormality. Although she knew what was going on, she still felt extremely nervous. Lu Chen did not hesitate any longer and kissed Mu Qinglan's red lips directly, and then slowly stroked Mu Qinglan's green gauze with his big hands. The gauze was extremely silky and felt very good. The friction between the gauze and the delicate skin made Mu Qinglan feel even hotter all over her body. Even though she was a saint, she could not restrain her restless heart when facing her beloved. With Lu Chen's kiss, Mu Qinglan felt that her consciousness had gradually blurred. As for the cultivation, she had long forgotten it. After an unknown amount of time, when Mu Qinglan came to her senses, she was already lying on the soft couch. Lu Chen looked down at her eyes with a smile on his lips. Mu Qinglan's heart trembled. The Emperor of Heaven must have regarded her as a shameless woman when he saw her like this. Just as Mu Qinglan was thinking this, Lu Chen's body suddenly sank. Mu Qinglan hurriedly bit her silver teeth and tried not to make any sound. Lu Chen could no longer bear it. This was the first time he had done this with a saint. In the past, he was always worried that his wives and concubines could not bear it, but it was different with the saint. Now he could use his own methods without any hesitation. Then Lu Chen did not show any sympathy for the women and began his tyrannical behavior. For a saint, Lu Chen's assassination would not cause any discomfort, but Mu Qinglan had no way to shield the feeling brought by Lu Chen. The first time Lu Chen cultivated feelings with Mu Qinglan, he used the skill of 100 birds paying homage to the phoenix. Mu Qinglan was led away by Lu Chen. Mu Qinglan finally understood why the Emperor of Heaven had fallen. Not to mention that the Emperor of Heaven had fallen, Mu Qinglan gradually felt that she was about to fall. 2 months passed in the blink of an eye. In Mu Qinglan's bedroom, Lu Chen had finished his work and was gently stroking Mu Qinglan's hair. Mu Qinglan lay on the Emperor's chest, feeling Lu Chen's passionate feelings. When Lu Chen and other wives and concubines were crazy, it was basically only a month, but Mu Qinglan was a saint, and her recovery ability was very strong, so Lu Chen added an extra month. At this time, Mu Qinglan had recovered. She felt like she was dreaming. She never thought that one day she would lie on the Emperor and lock his body. Lu Chen glanced at his system interface at this time. Congratulations to the host for getting a wife and concubine, and reward a Hunyuan pill. Then Lu Chen had a thought and opened the introduction interface of Hunyuan pill. Hunyuan pill, after taking it, it can greatly increase the chance of breaking through to the saint. Seeing this pill, Lu Chen was stunned for a moment, but he was not happy about getting this pill. The system gave him a pill to break through to the saint level, and it can only increase the probability, not help him directly reach the saint level, which means that it is not easy to break through to the saint level. Feeling that Lu Chen's hand stopped playing with her hair, Mu Qinglan slightly propped herself up and looked at Lu Chen. "Your Majesty, what's wrong?" Lu Chen came back to his senses and put the matter of the Hunyuan pill aside. Then he looked at Mu Qinglan's cold and charming face and smiled and said, "Lanner, I didn't expect you to be so powerful the first time you practiced Suan Gong. You locked me up and I couldn't move." End of this chapter. Requesting leave. I was not feeling well this month, so I took a lot of leave. I am really sorry. End of this chapter. Chapter 914, Unusual Movements of Kanghai Sect. Zhang Tianrui thought for a moment, then asked, "Is there life in this star field?" Lu Tingjong replied, "This star field is just a wild star field. Although there are living worlds, they are basically low-level worlds. However, our people found monks with the strength of saints in it." Zhang Tianrui fell into deep thought again. There were monks in the saint realm in a wild star field. There might be treasures in this wild star field. The key is that this star field has been erased from the star map, which further proves that this place is weird. After Zhang Tianrui came back to his senses, he said, "Tell me exactly how you discovered this star field." "Yes, uncle." Then Lu Tingjong told Zhang Tianrui the whole process of discovering the Chaos Star Sea. When he heard that there was the tomb of the Great Emperor, Zhang Tianrui frowned slightly. If it is true what Lu Tingjong said, I am afraid that even if there is no tomb of the Great Emperor, there will still be some treasures in the Chaos Star Sea. After Lu Tingjong finished explaining the process of discovering the Chaos Star Sea, Zhang Tianrui asked, "Have other forces discovered the existence of the Chaos Star Sea now?" Lu Tingjong replied, "We send people to explore near the Chaos Star Sea from time to time, and we have not found any other forces entering the Chaos Star Sea." Lu Tingjong originally planned to have people keep an eye on the Chaos Star Sea, but he thought that if he did this, it would probably arouse the suspicion of other forces. Think about it, a big force would send some ferry boats to guard the void for no reason. If there was nothing in that place, people would not believe it. Therefore, Lu Tingjong occasionally asked the Kanghaizong's immortal boats to pretend to pass through the periphery of the Chaos Star Sea, and occasionally monitored whether other forces entered the Chaos Star Sea. The disadvantage of this is that if there is a force that enters the Chaos Star Sea without their knowledge, they may not notice it. This is indeed the case. Skyfire World sent more than a dozen immortal boats into the Chaos Star Sea, and the people of the Kanghai sect were not aware of it at all. Zhang Tianrui was silent for a moment, and then said, "Let those elders who have entered the Chaos Star Sea come to see me." Zhang Tianrui also wanted to know more about Chaos Star Sea, especially the monk in Chaos Star Sea who was close to the strength of a saint. For a place like Chaos Star Sea, he would definitely go in and explore it, but before entering, he still had to be prepared. If there really is a tomb of the Great Emperor in the Chaos Star Sea, then the Kanghai sect will soar into the sky, and Zhang Tianrui will not let this opportunity pass by. Lu Tingjong said, "Yes, I will ask them to go to the meeting hall." Immediately, Lu Tingjong left the forbidden area in the back mountain, and soon Lu Tingjong brought Zhou Fian and others to the meeting hall. At this time, Zhang Tianrui was already waiting in the meeting hall. Seeing the Supreme Elder in the main hall, Zhou Fian and others felt very nervous. Zhang Tianrui asked calmly at this time, "Tell me everything you saw after entering the Chaos Star Sea." Zhou Fian said quickly, "Yes, Mrs. Zhang." Then Zhou Fian and others told Zhang Tianrui in detail about their encounter in the Chaos Star Sea. After listening to their words, Zhang Tianrui became more convinced that there was some treasure in the Chaos Star Sea. Since there is a treasure, it is worth visiting in person, but if you blindly enter the Chaos Star Sea and the opponent is stronger than yourself, not only will you not get the treasure, but you may lose a clone. The saint can condense 3 clones. Each clone has equal strength, but the death of one clone will also affect the strength of the other clones. After listening to what Zhou Fian and others said, Zhang Tianrui guessed that the so-called saint most likely just broke through to the saint realm. If he was just a monk who had just become a saint, it would not be a big deal for him, a monk of the second level of saint. Threats. Thinking of this, Zhang Tianrui said to Lu Tingzhang, "Get ready, we will go to the Chaos Star Sea in a month." After hearing Zhang Tianrui's words, Lu Tingzhang was very happy. He believed that with Zhang Tianrui, a saint, they could get the treasures of the Chaos Star Sea at their fingertips. Immediately, Lu Tingzhang recruited his experienced disciples and those elders who had gone out. Kanghai sect's sudden recall of sect disciples and elders aroused the suspicion of some forces. Logically speaking, a force would not recall its disciples and elders who were on missions without encountering any crisis. The Kanghai sect is an affiliated force of the Huangshan Kuei-Sai Emperor. In the entire Huangshan Star region, there is no force that dares to go against the Kanghai sect. What kind of crisis can the Kanghai sect face? Soon all parties got the news that the supreme elder of the Kanghai sect had left seclusion, which aroused people's curiosity even more. The supreme elder of the Kanghai sect had just come out of seclusion, and then immediately recalled his disciples and elders. It seemed that something had happened to him. For a time, many forces sent people to Kanghaizong to inquire about information and wanted to know what Kanghaizong was doing. In order not to arouse suspicion from all parties, Kanghai sect announced to the outside world that the Supreme Elder had achieved a breakthrough, so they planned to hold a sect celebration. Hearing that the Kanghai sect was going to hold a sect grand celebration, all the major forces suddenly realized that it was for the sect's grand celebration. No wonder the disciples and elders of the sect were called back. They thought something big had happened to the Kanghai sect. This made all the forces despise the Kanghai sect. The supreme elder of the Kanghai sect was only a first-level saint. Even if he broke through, he would still be a second-level saint. What kind of sect celebration is necessary for the second-level saint? If you reach the fifth level of saint, it is reasonable to hold a sect celebration. After all, when you reach the fifth level of saint, your strength will be greatly improved. But before the fifth level of saint, even if your strength is improved, the improvement is not very large. However, even if you despise the behavior of Kanghai sect for holding a grand celebration, there are still many forces in Huangshan Star region who bring gifts to participate in Kanghai sect's sect celebration. Skyfire World. Skyfire Dynasty, Imperial Palace. Mu Zhengqing looked at the information in his hand and frowned slightly, as if thinking about something. He was holding the information about Kanghai sect holding a sect celebration. Seeing that Kanghai sect said it was going to hold a sect celebration, Mu Zhengqing immediately felt something was wrong. It was just a breakthrough to the second level of saint, there was no need to hold a grand celebration. Obviously, Kanghai sect wanted to use this sect celebration to cover up something, and Kanghai sect must have some action next. After thinking about it, Mu Zhengqing immediately came to the desk and wrote a letter to Lu Chen. The Emperor of Heaven had always asked him to keep an eye on the Kanghai sect. Now that the Kanghai sect had made some unusual moves, the Emperor of Heaven would naturally know about this. Perhaps the Kanghai sect's grand celebration was related to the Emperor of Heaven. After Mu Zhengqing finished writing the letter, he immediately had someone send it to the Tianchen world. After receiving Mu Zhengqing's letter, Lu Chen basically guessed what the Kanghai sect was going to do next. This gave Lu Chen a strong sense of crisis. He was not afraid of the saint of the Kanghai sect. He was worried about the series of troubles that would come after solving the saint's problem. End of this chapter. Requesting leave. I am not feeling well, I will update tomorrow. End of this chapter. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. Chapter 915, His Majesty the Emperor of Heaven must have a solution. Mu Qinglan has the fifth level of saint cultivation, while the Grand Elder of Kanghai sect is only the second level of saint. The Grand Elder of Kanghai sect is probably not Mu Qinglan's opponent. But if the Grand Elder of Kanghai sect is dealt with, then the people of Kanghai sect will tell the matter of Chaos Star Sea, and let more people know the existence of Chaos Star Sea and Tianchen world, then more forces and strong people will definitely come to Chaos Star Sea. If the existence of Tianchen world is known by the Quasi Emperor of Huangshan, and the Quasi Emperor of Huangshan comes out of retreat in advance and comes to Chaos Star Sea, then they may have no choice but to run away. At this time, Lu Chen's face was extremely serious. After thinking about it, Lu Chen couldn't think of a good way, and he was too lazy to continue to worry. If the Quasi Emperor of Huangshan really came out of retreat in advance and came to Tianchen world, and they were not the opponent of the Quasi Emperor of Huangshan, then he would just take his people away from Chaos Star Sea. It is useless to think more now. After all, the Kanghai sect is coming, and he has no way to stop them from coming. As long as the Kanghai sect comes to the Chaos Star Sea, the two sides will definitely fight. As the Emperor of the Great Xia Dynasty, he can't just watch the Kanghai sect invade the Chaos Star Sea. Even if the other party is a saint, they have to take action. This is impossible to compromise. When the enemy comes, the generals will stop it. When the water comes, the earth will cover it. Lu Chen plans to prepare in advance. Then Lu Chen sent a message to Mu Qinglan, and the next moment, Mu Qinglan, dressed in a green dress, appeared in the imperial study. Mu Qinglan exudes a faint Taoist charm, with her hair tied up high. After doing that kind of thing with Lu Chen, she has become more charming and charming. Seeing Lu Chen staring straight at her body, Mu Qinglan couldn't help but reveal a hint of shyness on her cold face. "Your Majesty, what do you want to talk to me about?" When Lu Chen sent her a message, she thought that Lu Chen wanted her to lock him up with Suangong again, but when she came here and found that this was the imperial study, she realized that Lu Chen must have something serious to talk to her about. Lu Chen directly handed the letter in his hand to Mu Qinglan. After Mu Qinglan took the letter, she glanced at it carefully. Seeing the content of the letter, Mu Qinglan was slightly stunned. Then Mu Qinglan asked, "Your Majesty, do you suspect that Kanghai sect is going to attack the Great Xia Dynasty?" Lu Chen said, "The possibility is very high. We must prepare in advance." Mu Qinglan thought about it. If, as the intelligence said, Kanghai sect only had one Saint level 2 strongman, then as long as she was there, Kanghai would not be a threat. However, it was not Kanghai sect that was threatening, but Kanghai sect telling other forces about the existence of Tianchen world. If other forces in the Huangshan star region knew that there was a star region near the Huangshan star region that was not marked on the star map, people would definitely think that there was some secret hidden in this star region, and would send people to inquire about the situation. Mu Qinglan said, "Then shall we go to Qinren world now?" Lu Chen thought for a while, "Let's go after a while, I still have some things to explain." Even if Kanghai sect wanted to come to Chaos Star Sea, it would not be able to arrive in a day or two. Lu Chen planned to explain some things in the next period of time. As soon as Lu Chen finished speaking, he stood up from his seat and asked Lu Chongfeng to issue an official document. He was going to convene a cultivator conference. Today's cultivator conference is no longer limited to one world. As long as a cultivator conference is held, the cultivator forces in Chaos Star Sea will come to participate. Of course, those who can participate in the cultivator conference are some relatively strong forces. After the official document of the Great Xia Dynasty was sent out, the top leaders of the major forces in Chaos Star Sea went to Black Dragon City one after another. When people heard that the cultivator conference was personally hosted by the Emperor of Heaven, they guessed that something must be happening in the Great Xia Dynasty. Every time the Emperor of Heaven presided over the cultivator conference, there must be something very important, and there is a high probability that there will be an invasion by foreign enemies. 3 days later, the cultivator conference was held in the council hall of Black Dragon City. The top leaders of various forces sat below the council hall, quietly waiting for Lu Chen on the dragon chair to speak. Lu Chen glanced at the cultivators in the hall, and then said, "The main reason for holding this cultivator conference is one thing. There will be an invasion of the Chaos Star Sea by foreign enemies, and that force is a large sect with cultivators at the same level." Hearing this, the hall was in chaos. An enemy has indeed invaded. Oh my god, a sage cultivator! Isn't that the end of the Chaos Star Sea? What should we do now? We are no match for the sage, right? Why are you panicking? His Majesty the Emperor of Heaven will definitely have a way. That's a sage. His Majesty the Emperor of Heaven shouldn't be a sage yet, right? Listening to the various opinions in the hall, Lu Chen did not interrupt them, but let them talk freely. For Lu Chen, every time the Great Xia Dynasty encountered a crisis, it was an opportunity to integrate the internal forces. Whenever there was a crisis, there would be some forces within the Great Xia Dynasty that wanted to betray. As long as these forces with the intention of betraying were eliminated, the ones left would be loyal to the Great Xia Dynasty. After purification again and again, those who remained in the end were the diehards of the Great Xia Dynasty. The reason why Lu Chen had to hold a meeting of cultivators every time he encountered a crisis was, on the one hand, to let these people know what happened in the Great Xia Dynasty and make them feel a sense of urgency, and on the other hand, to use the crisis to see if he could draw out some people with ulterior motives. If it was just a matter of dealing with this crisis, Mu Qinglan would be enough, and there was no need to notify these people. But if he did this every time, and he would solve the crisis every time, and these people didn't have to do anything, then the people of the Great Xia Dynasty would have no sense of crisis in the future. These people might even think that the Great Xia Dynasty only needed the Heavenly Emperor, and other things had nothing to do with them. What Lu Chen had to do was to make them feel like protagonists, and let them understand that they were tied to the Great Xia Dynasty. After an unknown amount of time, the council hall gradually quieted down. At this time, people found that the Heavenly Emperor was sitting on the dragon throne with a calm face, and it seemed that he didn't care about this crisis at all. People couldn't help but wonder, could it be that the Heavenly Emperor had already broken through to the Saint Realm? That's why the Heavenly Emperor was so calm? At this time, a cultivator boldly asked, "Your Majesty, what realm are you in now?" The Cultivators' Conference emphasizes free speech, which is Lu Chen's consistent proposition. Lu Chen doesn't care about this kind of direct question about his realm. He said lightly, "The 8th level of Gigzu realm." Hearing this, the council hall was full of discussions again. This is really troublesome. The Emperor of Heaven is only at the strength of Gigzu realm. How can they be the opponent of the Saint Realm cultivators? Could it be that the Great Xia Dynasty will be destroyed so soon? The Great Xia Dynasty was established less than 100 years ago. How could a dynasty be destroyed so quickly? Some people are sad, and some people are happy. The Emperor of Heaven has been suppressing the development of major forces. The existence of the Great Xia Dynasty is not a good thing for many cultivation forces. Now that the Great Xia Dynasty is about to be destroyed, it has also ushered in the dawn of a new life for those forces. End of this chapter. Chapter 916 Mu Qinglan and number 039, S Confusion. Lu Chen's eyes swept across the council hall, analyzing the changes in everyone's expressions. He could see that many people had already thought of joining the Kanghai sect, but he didn't care at all. Now he has placed Jin Yiwei in all major forces. As long as those forces have abnormal actions, he can immediately detect them and deal with them at that time. The council hall gradually quieted down after a long time. Seeing that no one was talking anymore, Lu Chen said, "The enemy this time is very powerful, but I will never let them enter the Chaos Star Sea. The Chaos Star Sea is our common home, and I believe you don't want these enemies to destroy our home." Hearing Lu Chen's words, some people just wanted to laugh. In their opinion, it doesn't matter who the ruler is. Whoever wins, they will stand on the side of the winner. They believe that as long as they get in touch with the forces that invaded the Chaos Star Sea as soon as possible, that force will not embarrass them at that time. Although some people have already thought about betrayal in their hearts, they still act as if they will live and die with the Great Xia Dynasty. Please rest assured, Your Majesty, we, the Xingguo sect, will do our best to resist the invasion of foreign forces. Your Majesty will command us from all levels of our TND sect. Your Majesty will command us from the Hanyu sect. Soon, the entire council hall was filled with the words of loyalty expressed by the leaders of the major forces. No matter what they thought in their hearts, at this time, they must say nice words. The force that invaded the Chaos Star Sea has not arrived yet. If they jump out to oppose the Great Xia Dynasty too early, they will definitely be destroyed before they can make a splash. Seeing that the leaders of some forces clearly have zero loyalty to him, but they show a righteous look, Lu Chen wanted to laugh in his heart. After a while, Lu Chen said, I believe in your loyalty. In order to resist the invasion of foreign enemies this time, I plan to further integrate the disciples of various forces, incorporate them into the War Dragon army of the Great Xia Dynasty, and make unified arrangements. Hearing this, the leaders of the major forces in the hall frowned. Incorporate their disciples into the War Dragon army of the Great Xia Dynasty? What a joke! If they become soldiers of the War Dragon army of the Great Xia Dynasty, will those disciples come back? Now everyone knows that the treatment of the army of the Great Xia Dynasty is particularly good, which is far better than the treatment of the sect forces. Although people are unwilling, the Emperor Xia uses the invasion of foreign enemies as an excuse, and the people of the major forces are not easy to refute. They just expressed their loyalty and said that they would listen to the arrangements of the Emperor of Heaven. If they stand up and oppose so quickly, wouldn't it prove that they are not sincere at all? However, soon someone thought that if their disciples were incorporated into the War Dragon army, wouldn't they be able to use their people to obtain the secret weapons of the Great Xia Dynasty from the War Dragon army? The existence of the Vulcan gun and the Vulcan cannon has long been known by all the major forces, but the Great Xia Dynasty has very strict control, and only the army can touch it. The major forces have been trying to obtain the manufacturing methods of the Vulcan gun and the Vulcan cannon for a long time, but they have not succeeded in the end. Now that the Great Xia Dynasty has taken the initiative to incorporate the disciples of the major forces into the War Dragon army, isn't this equivalent to giving them the opportunity to obtain the Vulcan gun and the Vulcan cannon? That is a weapon that can easily kill enemies across levels. Who doesn't want such a weapon? In the eyes of those forces that want to betray the Great Xia Dynasty, if they can get the rune weapons of the Great Xia Dynasty, they will not only have the capital to fight against the Great Xia Dynasty, but they can also send the rune weapons as a token of surrender to the force that is about to invade the Chaos Star Sea. I believe that after that force gets the rune weapons of the Great Xia Dynasty, even if they don't support them in the end, they will not embarrass them. Lu Chen saw that the loyalty of some people in the hall was rapidly declining, and some had even dropped to negative numbers, so he guessed what they were thinking. Lu Chen still just smiled faintly, and these people's calculations in their hearts were clanging, but unfortunately, their plans were destined to fail. Then Lu Chen made some other arrangements. This cultivator conference ended relatively quickly, with a total of 2 hours, not even a day. After the cultivator conference ended, the Great Xia Dynasty directly issued a notice that foreign enemies were about to invade. Although Lu Chen has recovered his memory of the Earth, some of his ideas are still somewhat different from the mainstream ideas on Earth. Perhaps in the eyes of some Earthlings, if a country encounters a crisis, it should not let too many people know about it, which is likely to cause panic and even lead to internal collapse before the crisis comes. But Lu Chen's idea is exactly the opposite. He thinks that no matter what crisis is encountered, the people of the dynasty should be informed. Only by letting people know that they are always in danger can their inner sense of crisis and sense of ownership be stimulated. And experiencing some small crises early can temper people's hearts. When encountering a big crisis in the future, both individuals and the entire dynasty will have a certain resistance. If everything goes smoothly and the people of the dynasty are not told what happened, even if something happens, people will feel that it is far away from them and has nothing to do with them. After the end of the cultivator conference, Lu Chen returned to the imperial study and began to browse the development reports of the major sects and forces submitted by the major forces in recent years. Since all the forces in Chaos Star Sea have been incorporated into the rule of the Great Xia Dynasty, whenever a cultivator conference is held, the major forces need to submit the development reports of their respective sects in recent years to let the emperor know about the development of their forces. Of course, some forces will choose to conceal some things, but with the Jinyi way, they can be found out no matter how hard they try. When Lu Chen was looking through the development reports of the major sects, Mu Qinglan appeared beside Lu Chen. She asked curiously, "Your Majesty, if you tell them about the invasion of foreign enemies directly, aren't you afraid of causing panic? Who knows, someone might choose to contact Kanghai sect in advance." Mu Qinglan didn't quite understand Lu Chen's operation. If it were her, she would just quietly get rid of Kanghai sect. Anyway, with her strength, it would not be difficult to deal with this crisis. The most important thing is that Kanghai sect is likely to send a saint this time. With the presence of a saint, the forces of the Great Xia Dynasty can't help much, so there is no need to tell them about Kanghai sect. Telling those forces about this, apart from creating panic, seems to have no positive effect. Hearing Mu Qinglan's words, Lu Chen flipped through the development report in his hand and said with a smile, "If there is really a force that dares to do this, it will be a good thing for the Great Xia Dynasty." This. Mu Qinglan seemed to understand something. The Emperor of Heaven was planning to use this crisis to clean up those restless forces within the Great Xia Dynasty. End of this chapter. Chapter 917, The Choice of the Yufeng Sect. After the cultivator conference ended, the official newspaper of the Great Xia Dynasty immediately released the news of the invasion of foreign enemies. In just a few days, all the worlds under the rule of the Great Xia Dynasty knew that a powerful saint would soon invade the Chaos Star Sea. After the release of this news, it did cause anxiety among the people of the Great Xia Dynasty, especially since the newspaper also said that the Emperor of Heaven only had the strength of the Gigzu realm and could not compete with the powerful saints at all. For a time, people were panicked, and some forces began to plan their retreat. Tianchen World. Yufeng Sect. In the sect master's hall, several elders were discussing, and people's expressions seemed very excited, as if they had encountered some happy event. At this time, Sect Master Su Nianzhuo, who was sitting in the hall, said, "What do you think about this matter?" After the voice fell, Su Nianzhuo glanced at everyone. What they were discussing at this time was naturally referring to the betrayal of the Great Xia Dynasty. After hearing that a Saint Realm expert was about to invade the Chaos Star Sea, Su Nianzhuo immediately thought of betraying the Great Xia Dynasty and joining the Saint. However, even though Su Nianzhuo was the leader of the Yufeng sect and could directly decide all matters of the Yufeng sect, he did not directly say to join the Saint. The main reason was that the Great Xia Dynasty had too much influence on the cultivators in the Chaos Star Sea. Even in the Yufeng sect, many people were influenced by the Great Xia Dynasty. If he directly told these elders that he wanted to betray the Great Xia Dynasty, some of these elders might immediately tell the Great Xia court that the Yufeng sect was going to betray the Great Xia Dynasty. Even if he wanted to betray the Great Xia Dynasty, Su Nianzhuo had to be careful. He asked people to discuss it, mainly because he wanted to see what attitude these elders had towards betraying the Great Xia Dynasty. Try it first. If anyone among them objects, he will find a way to quietly get rid of the objection to avoid causing trouble for them. At this time, an elder stood up and said, "Master, this is the best opportunity for us to get rid of the Great Xia Dynasty. We must seize this opportunity." Another elder also echoed, "Yes, Master, the Emperor of Heaven is definitely not the opponent of the Saint. If we surrender to the Saint earlier, there may be a way to survive. If we are a step late, the Saint may regard us as the subordinate forces of the Emperor of Heaven and destroy us together." Then, the elders in the hall all echoed, hoping to quickly surrender to the saint who was about to invade the Chaos Star Sea. Seeing the reactions of these elders, Su Nianchuo was very satisfied. As long as these elders were on his side, there would be no problem. But at this time, Su Nianchuo's eyes fell on the great elder of Yufeng sect. Other elders spoke up, but Zhang Yudong, the great elder of Yufeng sect, did not speak for a long time, and seemed to be thinking about something. Seeing that Zhang Yudong was hesitant to speak, Su Nianchuo frowned slightly. Zhang Yudong was the second in command of the Yufeng sect. Because of his status as the great elder, he often opposed himself as the sect master. Su Nianchuo was very relieved about other elders, but he felt a little uneasy about Zhang Yudong. Zhang Yudong was an unstable factor. He thought to himself that if Zhang Yudong was unwilling to join them, it would be a bit troublesome. Zhang Yudong was able to become the great elder of the Yufeng sect not only because he was powerful, but also because he had some means. Many people in the entire Yufeng sect stood on Zhang Yudong's side. If they wanted to take action against Zhang Yudong, it would inevitably cause great turmoil. If they made too much noise, it would likely attract the attention of the Great Xia Dynasty. Su Nianchuo then asked, "I wonder what you think, brother?" Zhang Yudong came back to his senses at this time, and he said lightly, "If there is really a saint-level cultivator entering the Chaos Star Sea, then the Great Xia Dynasty is indeed not far from destruction, but have you ever thought about how we can contact that saint in advance? The Emperor of Heaven only said that a force is about to invade the Chaos Star Sea, but we don't even know where this force comes from or what kind of force it is, so how can we get in touch with them?" Seeing that Zhang Yudong was not opposed to joining the saint, Su Nianchuo was relieved. He didn't want to conflict with Zhang Yudong for the time being, at least he didn't want to attack Zhang Yudong at this juncture. Since Zhang Yudong also agreed to join the saint, it would be much easier. Su Nianchuo said, "Brother, don't worry. As long as we tell the Emperor of Heaven in advance that we want to garrison the Qunren world, when our people patrol the edge of the Chaos Star Sea, they will naturally have the hope of encountering spies sent by that force." In Su Nianchuo's view, since the other party has planned to invade the Chaos Star Sea, that force will definitely send some spies to inquire about the situation in the Chaos Star Sea. As long as they stay at the edge of the Chaos Star Sea, are they afraid of not encountering spies from that force? Zhang Yudong thought for a while and said, "Brother's method is feasible, so let's do it according to your opinion." Seeing that Zhang Yudong said so, Su Nianchuo's mouth corners slightly raised, and then said, "Since you have decided, then I will immediately write an application to the Cultivator Association." The Cultivator Association also belongs to the Great Xia Court. It is a department that specializes in managing sect forces. Sect forces can directly contact the Cultivator Association for any problems. If Su Nianchuo wants to send disciples from his sect to garrison in the Qunren world, he also needs to write an application and submit it to the Cultivators Association. After the sect meeting was over, Zhang Yudong returned to his mountain. At this time, an inner sect elder came to Zhang Yudong's cave. "Grand Elder, are you really going to join that saint?" The man was Zhang Yudong's confidant and a cultivator of Zhang Yudong's sect. He also participated in the sect meeting just now. Although he seemed to agree to join the so-called saint, he actually felt that this was a little unreliable. If the force that invaded the Chaos Star Sea really had a saint-level strongman in charge, it must be a force with very strong overall strength. If the other party was really powerful, how could they look down on a small force in the Savage Star domain? They, the Yufeng sect, didn't even have any value to use. Of course, this is not the most critical. After hearing Gao Jinming's words, Zhang Yudong said lightly, "It's not certain whether there is that so-called saint. Su Nianchuo is so anxious to be a dog for others. He doesn't know how he will die at that time." Hearing Zhang Yudong's words, Gao Jinming was slightly stunned. Zhang Yudong continued, "The Yufeng sect has been ruled by the Great Xia Dynasty for so many years, and Su Nianchuo has not yet seen clearly what kind of person the Emperor of Heaven is, and he is still thinking about opposing the Emperor of Heaven. Zhang Yudong did not believe that this was a crisis at all. Over the years, the Great Xia Dynasty would reveal some flaws from time to time, making people feel that there was an opportunity to take advantage of it, and in the end, those forces that took advantage of the opportunity to make trouble would be liquidated. Gao Jinming then asked, what if there really is a Saint Realm powerhouse invading the Chaos Star Sea? Zhang Yudong laughed and said, even if there is really a Saint Realm powerhouse invading the Chaos Star Sea, it is highly likely that they are not the opponent of the Emperor of Heaven, otherwise the Emperor of Heaven would not be so calm when convening the Cultivator Conference. End of this chapter. Chapter 918 I and number 039, am afraid you and number 039, re not acting on your own. After hearing what Zhang Yudong said, Gao Jinming breathed a sigh of relief. He actually had the same idea as Zhang Yudong. The reason why he agreed with the sect leader Su Nianchuo when the sect was discussing matters was because he did not want to become an outlier in the sect. After all, other elders supported the sect leader. If he jumped out to oppose it at this time, he would probably make the sect leader dissatisfied. Zhang Yudong continued at this time, Su Nianchuo convened the elders for discussion today. Most likely, he wanted to test the attitude of each elder. If someone objects, he will definitely take action against those who object. Hearing this, Gao Jinming was stunned. He was a little lucky that he didn't go against the clan leader, otherwise he might not have survived long. Gao Jinming then asked, Great Elder, what should we do next? If the sect master really secretly colludes with the force that invaded the Chaos Star Sea, and the Great Xia Dynasty finds out, I am afraid that everyone in Yufeng sect will be implicated. Zhang Yudong pondered for a moment, and then said, if the sect leader's application is approved, then you will lead a team to station in Qunren world and try to find out as much information about the invading force. As for the rest, I will find a way. Gao Jinming said, I understand. A few days later, Yufeng sect's application was approved, and Yufeng sect sent 4 elders and thousands of disciples to garrison in Qunren world. However, as soon as the disciples of Yufeng sect arrived in Qunren world, they were all forced to be separated and divided into various Dragon War army legions, and the elders were also dispersed. This is not only the case for Yufeng sect, but also for the disciples of other sect forces. At the Cultivator Conference, the Emperor of Heaven said that he would integrate the disciples of all forces. Although the major forces were dissatisfied, they did not express it. Come out. Some forces also hope that people from their sects can obtain Vulcan spears and Vulcan cannons. After Lu Chen stayed in Tianchen world for a few more days, he felt almost ready, so he prepared to go to Qunren world. Just when Lu Chen was about to leave, a voice sounded outside Lin Huanyun's palace, Your Majesty, the Jinyi guards have sent a lot of information about the major sects. Hearing this, Lu Chen smiled and touched Lin Huanyun's cheek. Huanyun, it seems I have to go and do some work. Let's continue when I come back. Hearing this, the beautiful woman's cheeks instantly became more rosy and hot. She then calmed down the Suan Kung Fu and relaxed her whole body. After Lu Chen pulled away, he waved his hand and put on a suit of platinum clothes. Lin Huanyun said quickly, Congratulations to your majesty. After Lin Huanyun finished speaking, Lu Chen came to his study room. Now there are 2 royal studies in the palace, one is where Lu Chongfeng handles government affairs, and the other is where Lu Chen lives. Lu Chen's imperial study room currently does not contain anything related to government affairs, but mostly intelligence-related booklets. After Lu Chen entered the imperial study, a commander of the imperial guards immediately reported to Lu Chen the recent trends of various sect forces. Lu Chen was listening to the report from the commander of the Jin Yiwei while flipping through the booklet on the table. Seeing the contents in the booklet, Lu Chen just smiled faintly. The Great Xia Dynasty has been established for so many years, but these sect forces are still not at all restless. The Kanghai sect has not yet entered the Chaos Star Sea, and those forces are already thinking about it. He took the initiative to get in touch with Kanghai sect. In order to establish a connection with the Kanghai sect, the disciples and elders of the sect were even sent to garrison in Qunran world. Lu Chen was not angry at all about the small actions of these sect forces. He had long expected that such a thing would happen. At this time, Lu Chen opened his mouth and said to the commander of the Jinyi guards, "Don't touch them for now. Just keep sending people to keep an eye on them." "Yes, Your Majesty." "Go down. My subordinates, please retire." The commander of Jin Yiwei finished his words and left the imperial study. At this moment, Lu Chen came across an interesting piece of information. The intelligence pointed out that the great elder of Yufeng sect seemed to be actively looking for Jin Yiwei, and it seemed that he wanted to report something through Jin Yiwei. Seeing this piece of information, Lu Chen smiled faintly. It seemed that Yufeng sect also had smart people. At this moment, Bai Qingqing's voice came from outside the door, "Your Majesty, a disciple of the Yufeng sect wants to see you." Lu Chen was slightly stunned. He just saw this piece of information. He didn't expect that the great elder of Yufeng sect would send someone so soon. Lu Chen said directly, "Come in." As soon as the Yufeng sect disciple entered the imperial study room, he immediately knelt down and saluted, "Greetings to His Majesty the Emperor of Heaven." Without ceremony, "Tell me, what did your great elder send you to do?" Hearing Lu Chen's voice, the disciple of the Yufeng sect suddenly trembled. He was Zhang Yudong's direct disciple. Zhang Yudong had already told him about the matter of the Yufeng sect. When he thought that the Yufeng sect was going to betray the Great Xia Dynasty and would soon be annihilated, he felt very scared in his heart. Although Lu Chen had asked him to stand up, Duan Muji still knelt on the ground, not daring to get up or raise his head. "Your Majesty," Cao Min's master asked Cao Min to tell Your Majesty that the leader of Yufeng sect is determined to have his own way and wants Yufeng sect to secretly join the force that invaded the Chaos Star Sea. Hearing these words, Lu Chen chuckled, and then said, "I'm afraid I am not determined to have my own way. As far as I know, almost all the elders of your sect are in favor of joining the Kanghai sect." Duan Muji suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. He did not expect that Emperor Xia actually knew about Yufeng sect. It was exactly what his master thought. This was a trap by the Emperor of Heaven. Fortunately, his master saw through the Emperor's thoughts, but now that the leader of the Yufeng sect has made his choice, will the Emperor let the Yufeng sect go? After Duan Muji came to his senses, he immediately said, "Your Majesty, most people in the Yufeng sect are loyal to Your Majesty. They are only under the tyranny of the thieves, so they dare not disobey the orders of the thieves. Please understand Your Majesty." Lu Chen said, "Okay, I know about this matter. You go back and tell your master who is loyal and who is treacherous. I know very well that people who are loyal to Daxia will get better and better, and those who betray Daxia will get retribution quickly." This. Duan Muji was a little unsure of Lu Chen's attitude, but now he had to go back and tell his master what Lu Chen said. Then Duan Muji said, "I will remember the words of His Majesty the Emperor of Heaven, and I will take my leave." After the voice fell, Duan Muji stood up and trembled and left the imperial study. After Duan Muji left, Lu Chen put all the information in the imperial study into the space ring, and then directly sent a voice to Bai Qingqing and Mu Qinglan, "Xiao Bai, Lanner, let's go to Qunran world now." After Lu Chen sent a voice, his body came to the entrance of the portal, and Bai Qingqing and Mu Qinglan quickly followed. When the two women came to the portal, Tianhong Empress was already waiting at the entrance of the portal. Lu Chen didn't need to tell Tianhong Empress where he wanted to go, and Tianhong Empress would follow him. Seeing that the three women had arrived, Lu Chen didn't say anything more, and directly activated the portal, and then the four of them went to Qunran world. End of this chapter. Chapter 919. The crisis is coming. After arriving in Qunran world, Lu Chen did not go directly to the palace to enjoy himself, but immediately went to inspect the recently integrated Zhanlong army of the Great Xia Dynasty. When Lu Chen arrived at the military camp, two strong men wearing armor appeared in front of him. Meet the Emperor of Heaven. No gift. Lu Chen took a look at the two generals in front of him. One of them was a monk from the Tianhuo clan, and the other was Lu Chen's brother-in-law Xuanyuan Chen. Since the spiritual energy of the Tianchen world was revived, Xuanyuan Chen's strength has improved very quickly, even faster than the cultivation speed of Lu Chen's wives and concubines. He is now at the 9th level of the Yin and Yang realm, and is only one step away from breaking through to the Ruins realm. Lu Chen even doubted whether Xuanyuan Chen also had a system. Judging from the luck on Xuanyuan Chen's head, Xuanyuan Chen was indeed not an ordinary person. His luck was stronger than that of ordinary people. Xuanyuan Chen said at this time, "Your Majesty, the disciples of those sect forces are somewhat dishonest and always thinking about rune weapons." Hearing this, Lu Chen chuckled lightly. He had long expected that those forces wanted to take this opportunity to get in touch with the Vulcan Spear and Vulcan Cannon, so he did not let Xuanyuan Chen bring those runic weapons with him from the beginning. "Come to Qinren world." Lu Chen then said, "Let them worry about it, and don't let them touch the rune weapons until they return home." Xuanyuan Chen said, "Yes, Your Majesty." Lu Chen then said, "Let's go, take me to see how your new army is training." Xuanyuan Chen quickly moved out of the way, "Your Majesty, please follow me." Xuanyuan Chen then took Lu Chen to the recruit camp. When he saw the Emperor of Heaven coming, the recruits immediately stopped training and saluted Lu Chen in unison. "Greetings to His Majesty the Emperor of Heaven." Lu Chen glanced at the soldiers present. The loyalty of most of these soldiers was only 40 or 50. 40 or 50 was not considered low, but it was not considered high either. It was obvious that those sect disciples did not intend to stay in Daxia's Dragon War army. Of course, Lu Chen did not expect all of them to stay. The reason why he integrated disciples from all forces into the War Dragon army was just to select those monks who were willing to become Daxia soldiers. After waiting for a while, Lu Chen will let those monks who are unwilling to join the Dragon War army leave the Dragon War army. But when the time comes, Lu Chen believes that many monks will not be willing to leave. Compared with those sect forces, the soldiers of the Great Xia War Dragon army receive more training resources, and the promotion system of the War Dragon army is also more complete. Staying in the Zhanlong army has a better future than staying in those sect forces. Lu Chen believes that in the end these sect disciples know how to choose. After Lu Chen inspected the area, he left the military camp. After Lu Chen left, the disciples of the sect began to whisper. "Is that the Emperor of Heaven? What a strong sense of oppression! It is said that the Emperor of Heaven is only one step away from becoming a saint. If there had not been an invasion by foreign enemies, the Emperor of Heaven might have become a saint after spending more than 10 years in seclusion. The talent of the Emperor of Heaven is really terrifying. I heard that the Emperor of Heaven's real age is not even older than us." Thinking of the talent of the Emperor of Heaven, those sect disciples felt extremely envious. Basically, the sect disciples who could be sent to guard Qinren world were far older than Lu Chen. They have been practicing for decades or hundreds of years, and their cultivation is not even half as good as that of the Emperor of Heaven. Listening to the whispers of the soldiers, Xuanyuan Chen immediately said loudly, "The Emperor of Heaven is also someone you can discuss." Being scolded by Xuanyuan Chen, the soldiers present fell silent instantly. Xuanyuan Chen continued, "If you follow His Majesty the Emperor of Heaven faithfully and with the training resources given by the Zhanlong army, you will be able to reach the realm of His Majesty the Emperor of Heaven in the future. Of course, the premise is that you are truly loyal to His Majesty the Emperor of Heaven. As for those who join the War Dragon army with other purposes, I have to remind you that it is best to know what you are doing." Being warned by Xuanyuan Chen, some sect disciples retreated inwardly. They thought in their hearts that with such a terrifying talent of the Emperor of Heaven, what if the Emperor of Heaven broke through before the enemy invaded and defeated the forces invading the Chaos Star Sea? Isn't the first thing to do is to eliminate the traitors? Lu Chen just came to inspect the Zhanlong army's military camp, and he shocked many thoughtful sect disciples. However, there are still many people who believe that no matter how talented the Emperor of Heaven is, it is impossible to break through to the Saint Realm in a short period of time. It is only a matter of time before the Great Xia Dynasty is destroyed, and they do not need to be afraid of the Emperor of Heaven at all. Lu Chen didn't care what those sect disciples thought. At this stage, he was just integrating those sect forces and would neither let them come into contact with runic weapons nor let them directly participate in the battle. The reason why he allowed them to come to Qinren world to garrison was because he planned to let them see how the Great Xia Dynasty defeated the invaders. As long as these sect disciples see the power of the Great Xia Dynasty with their own eyes, they will become even more devoted to the Great Xia Dynasty. Another half-month passed in the blink of an eye. The Kanghai sect sent away those forces that came to participate in the sect's grand celebration. The Kanghai sect also took this opportunity to mix their immortal boats with these immortal boats that left the Kanghai sect. In this way, even if other forces see many immortal boats leaving Kanghai sect, they will only think that the people on these immortal boats are here to participate in the Kanghai sect's grand celebration. The leader of the Kanghai sect and a group of supreme elders took advantage of this opportunity and headed directly to the Chaos Star Sea. During the time Lu Chen spent in the Qinren world, as usual, he spent most of his time practicing with his wives and concubines. Of course, there was now a new person named Mu Qinglan. Mu Qinglan had completely given up the idea of helping Lu Chen to cheer up. She herself was deeply trapped in it, so how could she persuade Lu Chen to cheer up? Being treated unscrupulously by the man she loved deeply made Mu Qinglan unable to stop, especially every time she used the Suangong to lock Lu Chen. She would feel happy that she had conquered the Emperor of Heaven. She found that she enjoyed this happiness more and more. Qinren World. Imperial Palace. Lu Chen was helping Mu Qinglan practice in her room, while Nangang Yuehua and Nangang Qinja were asking Tianhong Empress some questions about practice in the courtyard next door. The Nangang sisters were very curious about the existence of Tianhong Empress. They had seen Tianhong Empress appear on Fiheng Xianzhou before. This woman was obviously a spirit, but now she has become a real person. Lu Chen did not tell them how the Rainbow Queen became a human, but he told them that if they had any questions about cultivation, they could ask the Rainbow Queen. Although the Rainbow Queen did not like others to disturb her cultivation, she later thought that if she could repay some karma in this way, it would be worth it, so every time the Nangang sisters came to ask her about cultivation, she would answer them seriously. After Nangang Yuehua asked the Rainbow Queen questions, she bowed and said, "Thank you for your help." The Rainbow Queen said expressionlessly at this time, "You have been stained with karma. No matter how you cultivate, you cannot leave that man before repaying the karma." End of this chapter. Chapter 920. It seems that I have misunderstood you. Empress Tianhong discovered that although the Nangang sisters often indulged in Lu Chen, the two sisters also practiced very hard. Empress Tianhong thought that the two of them were practicing so that they could one day get rid of Lu Chen, so she practiced so hard. So she deliberately reminded them that no matter how hard they practiced, if they didn't repay the cause and effect, it would be difficult for them to go further after their cultivation reached a certain level. If they want to become stronger, or become emperors, they have to repay the cause and effect. Empress Tianhong looked at the two women again at this time. The two women were entangled in cause and effect, and the line of cause and effect was very strong. It was not easy to get rid of the cause and effect or to repay the cause and effect. After listening to Empress Tianhong's reminder, the two women instantly understood that Empress Tianhong had misunderstood them both. The reason why the two of them practiced this way was not to get rid of Lu Chen, but to stand in front of Lu Chen more confidently. Nangang Yuehua immediately said, "Thank you, Senior, for reminding me, but this junior has never thought of leaving the Emperor of Heaven." Empress Tianhong was slightly startled. She did not expect that Nangang Yuehua would actually say this. Empress Tianhong then said with a cold face, "Aren't you practicing so hard just to get rid of that man?" At this time, Nangang Qinja said, "Senior, the reason why we practice so hard is because we don't want to hold back the Emperor of Heaven. His Majesty's cultivation is improving too fast. If we don't work hard, sooner or later we will lose our standing with him. Qualifications around you." This. Empress Tianhong glanced at the two women again, her eyes swept back and forth on the line of cause and effect, and then she thought to herself, what was she really talking about? With such a thick line of cause and effect, it is obvious that these two women will never leave that man again. She really has nothing to worry about. Then Empress Tianhong said expressionlessly, "It seems that I have misunderstood you. In that case, then you should practice well, I still have something to do." After the words fell, the figure of Empress Tianhong disappeared. Seeing Empress Tianhong leaving, Nangang Qinja smiled and said to Nangang Yuehua, "Sister, why do I feel that Senior seems to hate your Majesty?" Nangang Yuehua asked calmly, "How many women hate him?" As soon as Nangang Yuehua finished speaking, she heard a ghost crying and howling coming from next door. In Nangang Yuehua's view, there are all Lu Chen's women who don't hate Lu Chen. Of course, their hate for Lu Chen is not the kind of hostility, but the hate of love and hate. After all, this dog man sometimes doesn't care about their feelings at all and just likes to torture them to death. At this time, Nangang Yuehua took a look at Empress Tianhong's palace. Although she didn't know how Lu Chen gave a weapon spirit a physical body, but this weapon spirit was so beautiful, the final outcome would probably be similar to theirs. If they call them senior today, maybe they will have to call Empress Tianhong's sister in a while. Nangang Yuehua didn't think much about it. She turned around and prepared to return to her bedroom. At this moment, a female soldier entered the courtyard and said, "Your Majesty, there is a situation." After the female soldier finished speaking, she handed the information in her hand to Nangang Yuehua. After Nangang Yuehua took the information, she glanced at it and frowned slightly. Nangang Qinja asked from the side, "Sister, her face is so ugly, could it be that the enemy has entered the Chaos Star Sea?" Nangang Yuehua did not answer directly, but handed the letter in his hand to Nangang Qinja. After Nangang Qinja glanced at it, he sneered, "These guys can't sit still so quickly." The information Nangang Yuehua received was that some sect disciples left the Chaos Star Sea under the pretext of patrolling and disappeared for a long time. As for what they were doing, no need to think about it, they knew that these guys were looking for Kanghai sect. At this time, the two women looked at the bedroom next door in unison, wondering whether they should tell Lu Chen the news. Lu Chen is busy now. If he disturbs Lu Chen at this time, Lu Chen will be angry by then, and I'm afraid the two of them will also suffer. At this moment, the sound from the bedroom next door suddenly disappeared, and the next moment, Lu Chen's voice sounded in the ears of the two women. "What's wrong? What's the matter?" After all, Lu Chen was a monk at the 8th level of the Return to Ruins realm, so he still had some sense of perception. After he relaxed, he noticed that the eyes of the two women had been staring at the palace where he was. It was obvious that they wanted to miss him something. "Report." Nangang Qinja sent a message and said, "There are some restless sect disciples who have left the Chaos Star Sea and must have gone to Kanghai sect." Hearing this, Lu Chen laughed in his heart, and then said through a message, "I understand, don't worry about them for now, I have sent people to keep an eye on them." After hearing Lu Chen's response, the two women seemed to understand something. Lu Chen was fishing and enforcing the law not once or twice. It seemed that Lu Chen wanted to take advantage of the crisis this time to clean up the restless forces within the Great Xia Dynasty. Just when the two women were thinking this, Mu Qinglan's voice came again, and the two women hurriedly left the yard. If they continued to listen, they might not have the heart to practice. At the same time, in the void at the edge of the Chaos Star Sea, ferry boats are moving forward quietly. On a certain luxurious ferry boat, Zhang Tianrui stood on the deck of the ferry boat, looking at the endless void in the distance. At this time, he still felt a little unbelievable. There was clearly endless darkness ahead. Logically speaking, it should be a black domain. Is there really a star domain? Zhang Tianrui then asked Zhou Fian beside him, Zhou Fian, are you sure there is really a star field ahead? Zhou Fian said quickly, I have been to the Chaos Star Sea myself. As long as I pass this void, I can see the world of life. Just when Zhang Tianrui wanted to continue asking something, he suddenly found that there seemed to be a faint light in the distance. Zhang Tianrui frowned and flew out of the immortal boat directly. Then he used his spiritual sense to explore the void in the distance. As a result, he found that his spiritual sense seemed to be restricted by something, and the exploration distance was greatly limited. Zhang Tianrui thought to himself, no wonder no one knows about this star field. It seems that there are restrictions in the entire Chaos Star Sea. Then Zhang Tianrui returned to the immortal boat, speed up. As soon as Zhang Tianrui finished speaking, all the immortal boats of Kanghai sect flew towards the distant void at the fastest speed. Not long after, people found a small ferry boat moving slowly in the void not far away. There was a glowing spiritual stone in front of the ferry boat. It seemed that the ferry boat was looking for something. Seeing that there was actually a ferry boat coming out of the Chaos Star Sea, Zhang Tianrui was slightly stunned, but before he could speak, Lu Tingjong, the leader of the Kanghai sect, had already flown to the bow of the ferry boat. Who are you? As soon as Lu Tingjong finished speaking, he released the semi-saint pressure on his body. Feeling the semi-saint pressure on Lu Tingjong, those people knelt down in a hurry. Senior, spare my life. We came here specifically to find you. End of this chapter. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. Chapter 921, This Emperor Xia is not to be feared. Hearing what these people said, Lu Tingjong was stunned. Came here to look for them? He didn't even know these people, what did they want to do with them? And these people should not know their Kanghai sect, right? Lu Tingjong asked with a look of doubt, do you know what sect I come from? Hearing this question, the people on the immortal boat looked at each other, and no one answered. Seeing that these people did not answer, Lu Tingzang's face darkened instantly. These people said that they came here to look for them, but they didn't even know what sect they came from. The next moment, Lu Tingjong was ready to take action to deal with these people, but at this moment, a person hurriedly said, Senior, although we don't know what force you come from, we know that your sect has a strong man in the sage realm. Emperor Xia is fierce and cruel. We have long wanted to escape from the Chaos Star Sea, but Emperor Xia has been threatening us with the lives of the sect cultivators, so we dare not leave the Chaos Star Sea. Not long ago, Emperor Xia learned that you were going to enter the Chaos Star Sea, so he summoned all the forces in the Chaos Star Sea in an attempt to stop you. Taking this opportunity, we decided to abandon the dark and join the light, so we took the opportunity to take the initiative to leave the Chaos Star Sea and come to join the senior. Hearing this, Lu Tingjong thought about it, and it didn't seem to be false to listen to the words of this cultivator. Although these people were probably sent by Emperor Xia to gather intelligence, if these people really wanted to join them, then they could use these people to find out the situation in the Chaos Star Sea. Moreover, even if these people were sent by Emperor Xia, they would not pose much of a threat to Kanghai sect. Their supreme elders have all come out of the mountains, so how could they be afraid of a cultivator who is not even a saint? Just when Lu Tingjong was about to ask questions, Zhang Tianrui flashed and came directly to Lu Tingzang's side. Lu Tingjong immediately said respectfully, Uncle Master, how do you think it is better to deal with them? Seeing that Lu Tingjong was so respectful to the old man beside him, the people present instantly guessed that he should be the saint, so they kowtowed and said, Please save us, Senior. We are willing to be your slaves. Zhang Tianrui asked directly, What kind of power is Emperor Xia? One of them replied, to answer the senior, according to the information we have obtained, Emperor Xia's current cultivation should be the 8th level of Gigzu realm. Zhang Tianrui thought for a while, it was only the 8th level of Gigzu realm, so why did Zhou Fian say that Emperor Xia might have the strength close to that of a saint? At this time, Zhou Fian also immediately flew to Zhang Tianrui's side. Zhou Fian looked at those people with unfriendly eyes and said, 8th level of Gigzu realm? You are not spies sent by Emperor Xia to spread false information, right? A cultivator hurriedly said, Senior, we can swear that we are absolutely not lying. Emperor Xia himself said at the cultivator conference that he is indeed only at the 8th level of Gigzu realm. But, hearing this transition word, Zhou Fian said viciously, but what? Tell me what you know immediately, otherwise you will die. The cultivator hurriedly said, but Emperor Xia, it seems that there is a very powerful spiritual armor. As long as you wear that kind of spiritual armor, you can greatly improve your cultivation. After the Yin-Yang realm cultivators put on that kind of spiritual armor, their strength can be improved to the Gigzu realm in a short time, and after the Gigzu realm cultivators put on that kind of spiritual armor, they can have the strength close to that of a saint. Hearing this, Zhou Fian was slightly stunned. He seemed to understand something, no wonder I always feel that the saintly aura on him is unstable. It turns out that he is not a saint. Zhang Tianrui thought about it. If the other party only relied on other means to temporarily improve his strength to a level close to that of a saint, then this Emperor Xia is not to be feared. Then Zhang Tianrui looked at the people in front of him and said, I can protect you and tell you the details of the Chaos Star Sea. After hearing Zhang Tianrui's words, everyone was very excited, and then told Zhang Tianrui and others about Lu Chen's growth trajectory and what happened in the Chaos Star Sea over the years. After listening to Lu Chen's growth trajectory, Zhang Tianrui couldn't help but smile. At this time, Lu Tingzhang said, Master, the reason why Emperor Xia could grow up must be because there are treasures in Tianzhen world. In the past, they were just suspicious, but after listening to these people's stories, they were completely sure that there was a tomb of the emperor or a cave left by some powerful people in Tianzhen world. Otherwise, how could Emperor Xia, a prince of a mortal dynasty, grow up in such a short time, and the spiritual armor that can improve people's strength by several stages is not simple. Even a first-class force like Kanghai sect does not have the spiritual armor that can directly improve people's realms. How could a cultivator like Emperor Xia from the Savage Star domain have it? It is obvious that Emperor Xia found this thing somewhere in Tianzhen world. What Zhang Tianrui was most concerned about was the towering tree that these people talked about. They said that since the birth of the tree, the spiritual energy of the entire Tianzhen world has become very strong, which made Zhang Tianrui wonder if the tree was a world tree. If the tree could be moved to Kanghai sect would become even more powerful. Zhang Tianrui was already a little impatient at this time, and then he said to those people, okay, you lead the way. If it is really as you said, Kanghai sect will not treat you unfairly. After hearing this, the traders of Daxia kowtowed and thanked them, thank you, Senior. Thank you, Senior. We will take you to Qunren world now. Then the immortal boat of Kanghai sect continued to fly towards Qunren world. After Zhang Tianrui and others returned to their own immortal boat, Lu Tingzhang asked in confusion, Master, are you really going to accept these people? Zhang Tianrui said lightly, they are still a little useful now. After dealing with that Emperor Xia, all the forces in Chaos Star Sea will be destroyed. If there really is a tomb of the Emperor, they will definitely not let this news leak out. These traitors of the Great Xia Dynasty can betray the Great Xia Dynasty, and one day in the future they may also betray Kanghai sect. And for Kanghai sect, these traitors of the Great Xia Dynasty are just trash in the Savage Star domain, and they have no cultivation qualifications. In addition to leading the way, they are useless. After hearing Zhang Tianrui's words, Lu Tingzhang's mouth corners slightly raised, I understand. Under the leadership of those traitors of the Great Xia Dynasty, it didn't take long for Kang Hai-sek's immortal boat to arrive at Kunran World. As soon as they saw Kunran World, they found that there were many immortal boats parked outside Kunran World. Seeing those immortal boats, Zhang Tianrui said, I am really curious. Emperor Xia has been in the Chaos Star Sea. How did he know in advance that our Kang Hai sect was coming? In order to conceal their tracks, their Kang Hai sect even specially held a sect celebration. They deceived all the forces in the Huangshan Star region, but let Emperor Xia, who was far away for who knows how many light years, know about it. After Zhang Tianrui finished speaking, Lu Tingjong immediately looked at the traitor from Daxia beside him. Tell me, how did Emperor Xia know about it? The traitor from Daxia stammered and replied, Senior, I don't know either. Emperor Xia suddenly convened a meeting of cultivators and said that a force with saintly strong men was about to enter the Chaos Star Sea. Chapter 922 Emperor Xia, come out and beg for mercy immediately. After listening to the words of the Great Xia traitor, everyone pondered for a moment. They always felt a little strange that Emperor Xia had noticed their coming in advance. After thinking for a while, Zhang Tianrui said, forget it, as long as Emperor Xia is caught, the answers to all these questions will naturally be revealed. In Zhang Tianrui's eyes, Lu Chen was already a turtle in a jar, with no way to escape. Now they just need to find him, and soon they will clear the secrets of the Tianchen world, and there is no need for them to guess here. Lu Tingjong echoed, Master is right. As soon as the voice fell, Lu Tingjong stood up directly, flew into the void, and then shouted to the immortal boats outside the Kunran world, Emperor Xia, get out and beg for mercy immediately, you can save your life. After hearing this, Mu Qinglan, who was on the Fiheng immortal boat, couldn't help but want to take action. She didn't allow anyone to disrespect Lu Chen. But Lu Chen directly grabbed her wrist. Mu Qinglan turned her head and looked at Lu Chen, her eyes full of confusion, Your Majesty, they are disrespectful to you, let me kill them. Lu Chen said lightly, don't worry. After the voice fell, Lu Chen sent a voice to the void, Deist friends of Kang Hai sect, welcome to Chaos Star Sea. As he spoke, Lu Chen directly released his breath. The next moment, the people on the Kang Hai sect's immortal boat were pressed by the breath released by Lu Chen and it was difficult to breathe, but Lu Tingjong and Zhang Tianrui in the void were fine. Feeling the breath released by Lu Chen, Lu Tingjong showed a disdainful look. Sure enough, just like the information they had, Emperor Xia's saintly breath was unstable and he was not a real saint. It even seemed that the pressure of this breath was particularly terrifying, but even he, a half-saint, could not compare. He, a half-saint, could easily deal with this pressure. Lu Tingjong then said, Emperor Xia, if you only have this little strength, I advise you to surrender as soon as possible. If you surrender now, you may still have a chance to survive. Lu Chen ignored Lu Tingzang's words, but asked, I am very curious. Chaos Star Sea is a wild star field. What attracts you to come to such a wild star field one after another? Lu Tingjong said lightly, Emperor Xia, don't pretend to be confused here. I will say it for the last time. Hand over the location of the Emperor's tomb, otherwise, die. Hearing Lu Tingzang's words, Lu Chen was speechless. It was indeed the case. Kang Hai sect believed that there were treasures in Tianchen world, and even thought it was the Emperor's tomb. If this news spreads, I am afraid that more forces will enter Chaos Star Sea soon, and their days will be difficult. It is no problem to deal with Kang Hai sect alone, but if you want to deal with the entire Huangshan star field, there is almost no chance of winning. As long as I take action against these people from the Kang Hai sect, they will find it difficult to attack, and their main bodies will inevitably spread the news of the Chaos Star Sea, and more powerful people will be attracted. Lu Chen said lightly, there is no so-called tomb of the Emperor in the Chaos Star Sea. Lu Tingjong laughed, you, a prince of a mortal dynasty, can break through to the Gigzu realm in just a few decades, and you can also turn the Tianchen world into a world with rich spiritual energy. You say that there is no tomb of the Emperor in the Chaos Star Sea. Do you think anyone will believe it? It seems that you want to drink wine and drink a penalty wine. At this point, there is nothing to say. Lu Chen then took out the god-slaying sword and flew directly into the void. Then he sent a voice message to Mu Qinglan, "Lanner, don't come out until the other saint comes out." Mu Qinglan was slightly stunned, and then said, "I understand." Seeing Lu Chen flying into the void, the soldiers of the War Dragon army on the ferry boat behind him became nervous. The other party could easily withstand the pressure of the Emperor of Heaven, which proved that the strength of the person in front of him was definitely comparable to that of the Emperor of Heaven, and might even be stronger than that of the Emperor of Heaven. This time, can the Great Xia Dynasty really survive the crisis? Those sect disciples were already thinking about how to surrender in order to save their lives. Seeing Lu Chen flying into the void, Lu Tingjong looked at Lu Chen and then said, "Are you Emperor Xia?" Lu Chen glanced at Lu Tingzang's information and then said, "As the leader of Kanghai sect, you are so fussy. You are not a good leader." Hearing this, Lu Tingjong frowned, and then he mobilized all his spiritual power. The next moment, a huge golden deer phantom appeared behind him. Although Lu Chen used external objects to improve his strength to the level of a saint, Lu Tingjong did not take it lightly. He used the Dharma image right away. He just wanted to defeat Lu Chen quickly and then learn the location of the Emperor's tomb from Lu Chen. Seeing Lu Tingjong use the Dharma image, Lu Chen directly gathered the sword energy and slashed it with a sword. A huge sword energy passed through the void, causing ripples in the space. Ice Level 8 Sword. As the sword energy flew out, countless ice crystals appeared in the void, and the temperature of the entire void seemed to drop again. Lu Tingjong immediately felt something was wrong, and his expression instantly became more serious. Lu Tingjong quickly controlled the Dharma image, and the golden deer behind him opened its mouth and sprayed a colorful light from the golden deer's mouth, directly rushing towards the terrifying sword energy. As the colorful light collided with the sword energy of the 8th level ice sword, a violent explosion occurred in the void, and the space was once again blown out with visible ripples, and the immortal boats of both sides were pushed away by the energy generated by the explosion for hundreds of kilometers. When the aftermath of the explosion dissipated, Lu Chen and Lu Tingjong were still suspended in the void. Lu Chen clenched the sword in his hand and frowned at Lu Tingjong in the distance. Lu Tingjong seemed to be fine and his Dharma image was intact. Lu Chen originally thought that after putting on the holy light armor, he had already possessed the strength close to that of a saint. In addition, he used the heaven-level skills, so it should not be a big problem to deal with a half-saint. As a result, he did not expect that his sword did not even hurt the corner of the opponent's clothes. Is this the true strength of a half-saint? It seems that he was right not to let Mu Qinglan take action immediately. If he let Mu Qinglan take action, he would not be able to test his true combat power. At this time, Lu Tingjong had the same serious expression as Lu Chen. He could already feel the warm blood in his throat, but he tried to restrain himself and swallowed the blood, pretending that nothing had happened. Lu Tingjong already knew that he was no match for Lu Chen. Although he seemed to have caught Lu Chen's sword, he had almost exhausted all his spiritual power. If Lu Chen continued to attack him, he would have no choice but to dodge. As a saint, Zhang Tianrui had a clear view of the situation on the field. He looked at Lu Chen in the distance with a gloomy expression. He thought that he could solve the Xia Emperor with Lu Tingjong, a half-saint. After all, the Xia Emperor's strength was raised by magic weapons, which was a bit empty. As a result, Lu Tingjong was seriously injured with just one sword. End of this chapter. Chapter 923 Deist Friend, your appetite is a bit too big. Zhang Tianrui no longer stood idly by and shouted directly, "That's enough." With this sound, an invisible force instantly attacked Lu Chen. Lu Chen suddenly felt as if his whole body was locked by something, creating a strong sense of crisis. This was the first time he had such a strong sense of death crisis. Lu Chen quickly mobilized his whole body's spiritual power to prepare to resist Zhang Tianrui's attack, but found that his whole body's spiritual power seemed to be blocked. This was the first time Lu Chen came into contact with the real pressure of a saint. Although Mu Qinglan was also a saint, Mu Qinglan had never released such strong pressure from a saint in front of Lu Chen, which made Lu Chen unable to adapt for a while. By the time Lu Chen reacted, the invisible attack had already arrived in front of Lu Chen, but at this moment, Mu Qinglan appeared in front of Lu Chen instantly. She gently raised her jade hand, and then a ray of spiritual power flew out from her fingertips, and the spiritual power of her fingertips instantly hit the saint's power. The two spiritual powers collided, and a violent explosion occurred. The void rippled again, and cracks appeared in the void. Seeing this scene, everyone in Canghai sect was stunned, and Zhang Tianrui's face darkened. He was not a fool. When the woman caught his attack lightly, he judged that she was a saint. I originally thought that Emperor Xia was the only one in the Chaos Star Sea who was slightly stronger, but I didn't expect that there was actually a saint hiding in the Chaos Star Sea. But the two sides haven't officially fought each other yet, and he doesn't know which saint's cultivation level is yet. Zhang Tianrui asked directly, "Who are you? I have never heard that there is a saint in the Chaos Star Sea." As soon as these words came out, the forces in the Chaos Star Sea were stunned. Saint? There is actually a saint beside Emperor Xia. Then why didn't Emperor Xia tell them at first? Now people finally understood why Emperor Xia looked so calm from beginning to end. There was a saint beside him to protect him, so there was nothing to be afraid of. Soon, those Daxia traders who took the initiative to join Kanghaizong regretted it. They already understood why Emperor Xia deliberately concealed the news that there was a saint around him. Xia Huang has been fishing and enforcing the law not once or twice. Thinking of the outcome of their liquidation, all of them turned pale with fright. Now their only hope is that the saint of Canghai sect can defeat the woman in front of Lu Chen, otherwise they, the traitors of Daxia, will all die. Mu Qinglan said indifferently, "Just because you haven't heard about it, it doesn't mean you haven't." While speaking, balls of white flame appeared in front of Mu Qinglan. Although these were flames, the surroundings did not heat up due to the appearance of flames. Instead, the temperature of the void where they were located suddenly dropped a lot, and countless ice crystals appeared again in the void. Feeling the pressure released from Mu Qinglan, Zhang Tianrui's face became even more gloomy. He couldn't help but think, why did this flame always feel familiar to him, as if he had seen it somewhere? The things that seemed familiar to him must have been seen or heard of, but he just couldn't remember them for a while. But now is not the time to think about this. This woman feels very dangerous to him. He must go all out, otherwise his clone may die here. As he approached, Zhang Tianrui completely released his saint's pressure. Feeling this pressure, almost everyone present felt that their bodies became extremely heavy, as if a huge mountain was pressing down on them. Even Lu Chen, who was wearing a holy armor and whose strength was infinitely close to that of a saint, was choked by this terrifying pressure. Lu Chen shouted coldly, "It doesn't matter the pressure of the saint. He is a person with the power of the universe, how can he be afraid of a small saint?" Immediately afterwards, Lu Chen began to activate the power of the source. As the power of the source traveled around Lu Chen's body, the pressure that enveloped Lu Chen disappeared instantly. Lu Chen suddenly felt very relaxed. This scene was also discovered by Zhang Tianrui. Seeing that Lu Chen acted like a normal person, Zhang Tianrui instantly became more vigilant. It stands to reason that the other party only used external objects to increase his strength to a level close to that of a saint. He is not a true saint. How could he resist his own saint's pressure so easily? Is this Emperor Xia hiding his strength? Or maybe Emperor Xia has some particularly powerful protective magic weapon? A protective magic weapon that can withstand the pressure of the saint? What level of magic weapon must it be? A flash of greed flashed in Zhang Tianrui's eyes for a moment, but he soon came to his senses. If he wanted to get the protective magic weapon from Lu Chen and find the tomb of the emperor, he had to defeat the woman in front of him first. It is not easy for two saints to kill each other. At this time, Zhang Tianrui said, "Fellow Taoist, everyone who has seen the great emperor's tomb has a share. Could it be that you want to monopolize the great emperor's tomb? Even if you want to devour the great emperor's tomb alone, there are many restrictions in the great emperor's tomb that you may not be able to break. I believe that you have only obtained a small part of the treasures in the great emperor's tomb, otherwise you would not be able to do so now. Still staying in the Chaos Star Sea. One more person means more power. When we break the restrictions of the emperor's tomb together, how about we share the human treasures inside equally?" Zhang Tianrui couldn't judge Mu Qinglan's strength now, and he also knew that it would not be easy to defeat the other party, and he might be seriously injured in the end. In his opinion, the existence of treasures in Chaos Star Sea was a foregone conclusion. If the things in the emperor's tomb had been collected by the woman in front of him, then this woman would not stay in the Chaos Star Sea, a wild star field. This female saint was still in Chaos Star Sea, so there was only one possibility, that this woman did not get all the treasures in the emperor's tomb. She continued to stay here to break the restrictions in the emperor's tomb, or wait for the forces behind her to arrive. Since the other party did not get all the treasures in the emperor's tomb, there was still some room for negotiation. Zhang Tianrui believed that the other party must be eager to enter the emperor's tomb. After all, it was the emperor's tomb, and there were countless treasures, inheritances and opportunities in it. There was no point in continuing the stalemate. On the contrary, it was possible that more and more people would discover the existence of the emperor's tomb as time went on. If more people are attracted, then this woman will lose more than she gains. Hearing Zhang Tianrui's words, Mu Qinglan knew that he had misunderstood her as someone who came to look for treasures like them. Mu Qinglan then said coldly, "There is no emperor's tomb in the Chaos Star Sea, nor are there any treasures. Please go back." Zhang Tianrui frowned, "So, you are planning to eat alone? Your appetite is a bit too big." End of this chapter. Chapter 924 Mu Qinglan takes action. In Zhang Tianrui's eyes, all signs indicate that there is a tomb of the great emperor or a cave of a powerful person in the Chaos Star Sea. But now someone told him that there is no tomb of the great emperor or treasures in the Chaos Star Sea. How could Zhang Tianrui believe it? It is obvious that the woman in front of him wants to take the tomb of the great emperor and all the treasures in the tomb of the great emperor for herself. Zhang Tianrui continued, "Fellow Daoist, your appetite is too big, be careful not to eat too much. And aren't you afraid that I will spread the news that there is a great emperor's tomb in the Chaos Star Sea? Although you are a saint, the great emperor's tomb is not only attractive to saints, but also to the quasi-emperor. If the quasi-emperor in the neighboring star field knows that there is a great emperor's tomb in the Chaos Star Sea, do you think you can stop him from entering the Chaos Star Sea with your own strength?" Mu Qinglan ignored Zhang Tianrui's words, but continued, "I will say it for the last time, there is no great emperor's tomb in the Chaos Star Sea, and there is no treasure." At this point, a sword appeared in Mu Qinglan's hand, and then he slashed at the void with a sword. A sword energy of dozens of kilometers directly slashed a space crack in the void. "Whoever dares to cross this line will die." Mu Qinglan's toughness completely annoyed Zhang Tianrui. Zhang Tianrui released spiritual pressure from his body, and said with a gloomy face, "Since you are so tough, let me see how strong you are and whether you can protect the tomb of the emperor." As soon as the voice fell, Zhang Tianrui blasted out with a palm. Sumer 9 Sun Palm. The next moment, 9 huge suns appeared behind Zhang Tianrui, and the heat of the sun burned the space and distorted it. The disciples of Kanghai sect hurriedly retreated. The fight between saints was no longer something they could intervene in. Mu Qinglan turned his head slightly and said to Lu Chen, "Your Majesty, please step aside for the time being." Mu Qinglan was also worried that his move would affect Lu Chen. Although Lu Chen had the strength close to that of a saint, he was not a saint after all. The fight between saints might hurt him. Lu Chen said okay, and then he teleported hundreds of kilometers away. Lu Chen now understands his own strength. If the opponent is a demon cultivator, he may be able to fight him with the chaos demon slaying skill. But this Zhang Tianrui is obviously not a demon cultivator. If he is not a demon cultivator, the spiritual power in his body will not have much restraining effect on him. He cannot intervene in this kind of battle for the time being. In this case, the rest of the matter will be handed over to Mu Qinglan. He believes that with Mu Qinglan's 5th level saint strength, it will not be a problem to deal with a cultivator who has just broken through to the 2nd level of saint. After seeing Lu Chen leave, Mu Qinglan looked at the 9 suns in the distance and the huge palm print flying towards him, and a gleam of light flashed in his eyes. Then Mu Qinglan mobilized the white strange fire on his body and infused all the strange fire into the spiritual sword in his hand. The Tianhuo people have strange fire since birth, which is their life spirit fire. When the Tianhuo people use their life spirit fire, their combat effectiveness will be rapidly improved, and their strength will be multiplied several times. This is why the Skyfire tribe was exterminated. Mu Qinglan used the spiritual fire right from the start, without holding back. A lion fights a rabbit with all its strength, and before Mu Qinglan took action, he had already sealed off the space they were in with the power of a saint. In this way, even if Zhang Tianrui's clone was killed, Zhang Tianrui's main body would only know that his clone was killed, but the specific details would not be known. Seeing the spiritual fire emanating from Mu Qinglan, Zhang Tianrui finally remembered where he had seen this kind of fire. A flash of panic flashed across his face. "You are Skyfire." Before Zhang Tianrui finished speaking, Mu Qinglan slashed with his sword. Ice and Fire Dragon Sword. In an instant, 2 5-clawed dragons flew out from Mu Qinglan's sword. One dragon was white and emitting ice, and the other dragon was red and burning with flames. The 2 golden dragons crossed and moved forward. When they were about to touch Zhang Tianrui's golden giant palm, the 2 dragons merged into one and became a giant dragon burning with white flames. When the dragon touched the golden giant palm, there was no violent explosion. At this time, the whole void seemed to be still. After an unknown period of time, a space crack appeared in the void. The space crack storm directly cut everything around into countless particles. Zhang Tianrui's pupils contracted and he looked at everything in front of him in disbelief. He had guessed Mu Qinglan's identity at this time. Judging from the strange fire used by Mu Qinglan was most likely a member of the Tianhuo clan, and the Tianhuo clan only had 2 saints. One saint was the Fire Emperor, and the other saint was the ancestor of the Tianhuo royal family. The Fire Emperor was a man, and the one in front of him was a woman, so this person was obviously the ancestor of the Tianhuo clan. Although Zhang Tianrui realized that he was no match for Mu Qinglan the moment she attacked, after all, the strength of the Skyfire clan could be greatly improved after using their own life-defining fire, and even if Mu Qinglan was only a 1st-level saint, he could not be her opponent, but he did not expect that Mu Qinglan's sword would be so terrifying. In Zhang Tianrui's shock, his body was also shredded into particles by the space storm, and even his soul was shattered. After seeing this scene, the faces of the people of Kanghai sect in the distance turned pale, and beads of sweat kept dripping down their foreheads. They didn't expect that their grand elder would be defeated like this. The opponent only used 1 sword. They are both saints, why is there such a big gap? After Lu Tingjong came to his senses, he turned around and controlled the ferry boat to escape to the edge of the Chaos Star Sea without any hesitation. This woman was obviously not something that their Kanghai sect could deal with. Seeing that Lu Tingjong and the others wanted to escape, Mu Qinglan raised the sword in his hand again and swung it out again. Ice and Fire Dragon Sword. Feeling the dragon roar coming from behind him, Lu Tingjong subconsciously looked back and saw the 2 dragons. Lu Tingjong was immediately scared to death. Before he could react, the 2 dragons merged into a dragon emitting white flames, and then the entire universe fell into a brief calm again. After a while, there was another space storm, and the entire Kanghai sect's immortal boat and the cultivators of the Kanghai sect were all swallowed up by the storm, leaving no intact bones or even souls. Lu Chen was shocked by the scene in front of him. This was the true saint's move. One sword directly shattered the void and even triggered a space storm. Terrible. When I break through to the saint realm, I wonder if I will also have this level of destructive power. At the same time, in a secret room of the Kanghai sect, two old men who were meditating suddenly opened their eyes and then spurted out a mouthful of blood. Zhang Tianrui's eyes flashed with shock. What's going on? Why was his clone killed, and even the memory before being killed was not transmitted back? There are actually strong people in the Saint Realm in the Chaos Star Sea. End of this chapter. Chapter 925, Lu Chen is stimulated. Zhang Tianrui no longer stood by and watched, and shouted, "Enough!" As soon as this sound came out, an invisible force instantly attacked Lu Chen, and Lu Chen suddenly felt as if his whole body was locked by something, and he had a strong sense of crisis. This was the first time he had such a strong sense of crisis of death. Lu Chen hurriedly mobilized the spiritual power of his whole body to resist Zhang Tianrui's attack, but found that his spiritual power seemed to be sealed. This was the first time Lu Chen came into contact with the real pressure of a saint. Although Mu Qinglan was also a saint, Mu Qinglan had never released such a strong pressure of a saint in front of Lu Chen, which made Lu Chen unable to adapt for a while. When Lu Chen reacted, the invisible attack had already arrived in front of Lu Chen, but at this moment, Mu Qinglan instantly appeared in front of Lu Chen. She gently raised her jade hand, and then a spiritual power flew out from her fingertips, and the spiritual power on her fingertips instantly hit the power of the saint. The two spiritual powers collided, and a violent explosion occurred immediately. The void produced ripples again, and cracks appeared in the void. Seeing this scene, everyone in Kanghai sect was stunned, and Zhang Tianrui's face turned dark. He was not a fool. When the woman took his attack lightly, he judged that she was a saint. Originally, I thought that only Emperor Xia was slightly stronger in Chaos Star Sea, but I didn't expect that there was a saint hidden in Chaos Star Sea. But the two sides have not officially fought yet, and he doesn't know what the saint's cultivation is. Zhang Tianrui asked directly, "Who are you? I haven't heard that there is a saint in Chaos Star Sea." As soon as these words came out, the forces in Chaos Star Sea were stunned. Saint? There is actually a saint beside Emperor Xia. Why didn't Emperor Xia tell them at the beginning? Now people finally understand why Emperor Xia looked calm from beginning to end. There is a saint protecting him beside him, so what is there to be afraid of? Soon, those traitors of Daxia who took the initiative to surrender to Kanghai sect regretted it. They understood why Emperor Xia deliberately concealed the news that there was a saint around him. Emperor Xia had used fishing enforcement more than once or twice. When they thought of the ending of their liquidation, they were frightened and pale. Now their only hope is that the saint of Kanghai sect can defeat the woman in front of Lu Chen, otherwise all the traitors of Daxia will die. Mu Qinglan said coldly, "Just because you haven't heard of it doesn't mean it doesn't exist." As he spoke, a group of white flames appeared in front of Mu Qinglan. Although these are flames, the surrounding area did not heat up due to the appearance of flames. Instead, the temperature of the void where they were located suddenly dropped a lot, and countless ice crystals appeared in the void again. Feeling the pressure released by Mu Qinglan, Zhang Tianrui's face became even gloomier. He couldn't help but think in his heart, why does this flame always make him feel familiar, as if he had seen it somewhere? Things that can make him feel familiar should be what he has seen or heard of, but he just can't remember it for a while. But now is not the time to think about these things. This woman gave him a very dangerous feeling. He had to go all out, otherwise his clone might have to fall here. Approaching, Zhang Tianrui completely released his saint's pressure. Feeling this pressure, almost everyone present felt that their bodies became extremely heavy, as if a mountain was pressing on them. Even Lu Chen, who was wearing a holy armor and whose strength was infinitely close to that of a saint, was suffocated by this terrifying pressure. Lu Chen shouted coldly, so what if he was under the pressure of a saint? He was a person who possessed the power of the origin of the universe. How could he be afraid of a small saint? Then, Lu Chen began to operate the power of the origin. As the power of the origin wandered around Lu Chen's body, the pressure on Lu Chen disappeared instantly, and Lu Chen suddenly felt very relaxed. This scene was also discovered by Zhang Tianrui. Seeing that Lu Chen was like nothing happened, Zhang Tianrui instantly became more alert. Logically speaking, the other party only used external objects to improve his strength to the level of a saint, and he is not a real saint. How could he resist his saintly pressure so easily? Did the Xia Emperor hide his strength? Or did the Xia Emperor have some particularly powerful protective magic weapon? A protective magic weapon that can withstand the pressure of a saint? What level of magic weapon would it be? A trace of greed flashed in Zhang Tianrui's eyes for a moment, but he soon came to his senses. If he wanted to get the protective magic weapon from Lu Chen and find the tomb of the Emperor, he had to defeat the woman in front of him first. As saints, it was not an easy task to kill the other party. At this time, Zhang Tianrui said, "Daiyu, the Emperor's tomb is for everyone who sees it. Do you want to take it all for yourself? Even if you want to take it all for yourself, there are many restrictions in the Emperor's tomb, and it is likely that you cannot break it. I believe you have only obtained a small part of the treasures in the Emperor's tomb, otherwise you would not be able to stay in the Chaos Star Sea now. One more person means one more strength. When we break the restrictions of the Emperor's tomb together, how about we divide the treasures in it equally?" Zhang Tianrui couldn't judge Mu Qinglan's strength now, and he also knew that it would not be easy to defeat the other party, and he would probably be seriously injured in the end. In his opinion, the existence of treasures in the Chaos Star Sea was a foregone conclusion. If the things in the Emperor's tomb had been collected by the woman in front of him, then this woman would probably not stay in the Chaos Star Sea, a wild star field. This female saint was still in the Chaos Star Sea, so there was only one possibility, that this woman did not get all the treasures in the Emperor's tomb. She continued to stay here to break the restrictions in the Emperor's tomb, or wait for the forces behind her to arrive. Since the other party did not get all the treasures in the Emperor's tomb, there was still some room for negotiation. Zhang Tianrui believed that the other party must be eager to enter the Emperor's tomb. After all, it was the Emperor's tomb, and there were countless treasures, inheritances and opportunities in it. There was no point in continuing the stalemate. On the contrary, it was possible that more and more people would discover the existence of the Emperor's tomb as time went on. If more people are attracted, then this woman will lose more than she gains. Hearing Zhang Tianrui's words, Mu Qinglan knew that he had misunderstood her as someone who came to look for treasures like them. Mu Qinglan then said coldly, "There is no Emperor's tomb in the Chaos Star Sea, nor are there any treasures. Please go back." Zhang Tianrui frowned, "So, you are planning to eat alone? Your appetite is a bit too big." End of this chapter. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. Thank you.